Welcome back. This is another episode of Good Earners reviewing The Sopranos. I am Marius Hunt III. This week we had to go to Italy. We had to go overseas to get we had to get our version of Furio today.
Hey, that's an honor right there.
Yeah. So but nonetheless, the good brother from Culture Garden podcast, as well as we got y'all, brother Rich. What's good with you, bro?
What's going on with you, man? It's a pleasure. It's an honor to be on here with you, man. Shout out to Spike.
Yeah.
Big fan of Spike, man. Big fan of Spike. Me and Spike share a lot of the same views.
Yeah, you hit him
Yeah,
up.
absolutely, man. I found myself agreeing with Spike a lot as I listen to these episodes,
I
man.
see that though.
Yeah,
I can see that, bro.
Absolutely, man. So it's an honor for real, man. I love what you guys are doing over here.
Yeah, and we appreciate that, and we love what y'all do as well. Like I said before, they have a movie review podcast as well as a television show review podcast as well. We'll put all of that in the description. But here at Good Earners reviewing The Sopranos, this is just not any Sopranos podcast, but this is the Sopranos podcast where we talk about family, finances, finessing, and feelings in the world of Tony Soprano, bringing you a new perspective, a fly perspective, and most importantly, a Black perspective. This week's episode we will be reviewing is season 2, episode 2, Do Not Resuscitate. But before we get into the whole episode, I'll give you the synopsis, and we want to get a little bit about brother Rich here and his journey coming across this legendary show.
Yeah,
the best show in my opinion, but I know he feels differently.
Yeah, you guys differently. It's close. It's close. Very close.
It's close. You have no idea what it's like to be number one. No. I've been waiting to get that off. But this episode, Junior leaves prison due to his ill health and placed under house arrest, while Livia's health also declines. Big P begins talking with someone interesting and learning more about Tony. This week's episode, season 2, episode 2, Do Not Resuscitate. Rich.
Yeah.
When did you come across The Sopranos?
So Sopranos was in my household, but I wasn't paying attention to it. Like my pops was a big Sopranos fan, but it was, it came out in 99 and I was 12 years old. So it wasn't something, even if I was watching, I would understand it.
Yeah.
I didn't get into Sopranos until I say about 2010. So about 3 years after it ended.
Wow.
And, yeah. I didn't watch it in real time at all. I remember like the finale and the big like uproar it caused, but I never saw it. And if I'm being all the way honest with you, the reason it took so long is because it took me a while to get past episode 1. But here's the reason why.
A lot of people.
Here's the reason why. I'm one of those people where you can't tell me over and over how great something is because I want the action from the jump. So there's a lot of times where unless I get a chance to form my own opinion, like my expectations were so high and I just couldn't get past it. I get it. Okay, we got the ducks, we got the pool, we got them passing out. Like, what's going on here? Like, this just isn't drawing my attention. As you know, I'm a Wire fan. Like, The Wire is my number one. But Sopranos is number 2. Once you watch it and you get into the flow of it and you rewatch it and you realize how brilliant the writing is and how outstanding the acting is on this show. Tie it in with them being trailblazers. Like, they were the first to really do it like this.
Yeah.
Nobody thought this idea would have worked or they could have showed all of this, but they took TV to another level. It's one of those you had to be there moments. Like how big The Sopranos was. I think the closest thing I've seen was probably Game of Thrones recently. The show was just so huge and it dominates no matter who you are, what demographic you're talking about this show. That's how Sopranos was. And as you know, I tagged you guys back in February. I was in New York and made the trip down to New Jersey to see the Sopranos house.
Mad jealous.
Went to the neighborhood. Like the house, it looks just like the Soprano house. You got the driveway. I got the little corner in the cul-de-sac where Big P parked his car. Like all of that. It's crazy. It's crazy. I love this show, man. It means a ton to me.
Yeah. One more question before we get into it. Y'all know we normally get into it, but this is our first guest of this podcast. Is there anything personal that you take away still from this show to this day where you're like, this is like in my daily, like in some point I'm always pulling from this? I know you do that with The Wire, I'd imagine. So
yeah, man, that's a great question because I'm sure there is. You put me on the spot and I can't think of anything, but I know for a fact there is.
Okay.
I'll think of it throughout the episode, and we'll
Okay.
circle back at the end. But yeah, Sopranos, there's so many references and so
Yeah.
many. I'll take that back. I take that back. Just last week, I told my boy, I show you my hand and you slap it away. Come in big, come in heavier, don't come in at all. I use that all the time. Come in heavier, don't come in at all. Obviously, I don't mean it in the same sense Junior did. But it's just a term to mean like, yo, let's be serious about what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Come in heavier, don't come. That I think that's the equivalent to The Wire, coming at the king. What's the phrase?
King, you best not miss.
You best not miss. Like, so I think that's like the equivalent of that. All right, that's dope. Well, I'm sure there'll be more stuff. I mean, I just find myself pulling pieces and just quoting stuff around the house. And my wife is just always like, what are you talking about? But like recently I just keep doing the like when I'm not gonna spoil nothing here, but like when Tony's relationship status kind of changes, he comes in, to Seal and tells him like, man, I'm coming in all late, man. I'm getting drunk, I'm banging women. You know what I'm saying? He's like, what's the difference? It's a mindset. And I just been saying that like about everything. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
So
you ain't doing that different than what you was doing when you was doing
exactly. Bro, you bragging about stuff you was doing anyway. So
absolutely.
But nonetheless, let's jump into the episode here. So we go right here to scene 1. I'm loving how season 2 is rocking already. They come in, Tony comes to see Junior, and they're having this banter back and forth, and Junior is emphasizing make things right with your mother. I love this back and forth between the two. Rich, what did you gather from this scene, and what do you think his intent was when he first came to see his Uncle June?
So he went to go see Uncle Junior because he had to get a message to him about how things are going to start running. So he needed to talk to him in order to set up the meetings with Bobby.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I love about this scene in particular is the tension off the jump between the two of them for multiple reasons. For one, Tony feels disrespected that it took 3 weeks to even get on Junior's visiting.
Your boy.
Yeah.
And
Junior walks out. He has that look of disgust, like almost like, what are you doing here? And the way they pick up the phone and look at each other, like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Be careful, the whole nine. So it was definitely business, but you can see that tension was still there as far as what went down at the end of season 1.
Absolutely. I think it's really interesting. Last season, when the hit was going down, the hit attempt towards Tony, there was an interesting moment he had with Carm where he was just like, dang, I should have never been joking about, Uncle Junior giving head, to his woman or whatnot. And so I feel like that scene is such a subtle scene, but it plays a heavy part here because it's like Tony doesn't look at Uncle Junior like you're dead to me.
So I want to circle back. I'm going to give my comments, but I have a certain scene in particular that I thought exactly what you're thinking.
Okay.
And there's a reason why. And when we get to it, I'll talk about it. But you're spot on with
I
that.
think I know where you're going. I think I may know.
Yeah, you're spot on with that because I'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay.
Everything you're saying makes perfect sense. There is a certain type of disdain that is visible to us as an audience, but also they have to communicate with each other. They have to make sure business keeps flowing. And, it's a forced relationship at this point.
Yeah, it is. Because I'm thinking like, this is clearly a way to take something personally. You really could have you really tried to get that off. But I think, game recognized game. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, nah, I guess I was out of pocket. Somebody even hit me up on IG, was like, nah, Junior was within his, realm of when you're talking crazy about the boss, which brings me to another thing that was said in this scene where he's like, tragedy is near you. You know what I mean? He basically getting his flex off about the Philly kill. Yeah. It's just like, Tony, you're
Tony was flexing this whole episode when it comes to that.
Oh man.
He was flexing this whole episode. But one other thing about this scene is it shows, as we know, Junior's old school. It's a famous line that Mikey said in season 1.
Yeah.
Junior cares about the image of the family. In multiple scenes throughout this episode, we see there's somebody out here talking about our name. You need to make right with your mother. Make sure all this goes away because it makes us look bad. As an organization, as a family, that makes us look bad. So you need to get that cleared up. That's an old school trait that Junior has. No matter what happened, clean this up so the outside looking in can make sure that everybody knows that things are okay.
And I think Junior could have been a good boss. You know, I know we Spike and me we joke about him, but I think he could have been a good boss. I think his time had just passed.
He absolutely. If it was his era and he knew how
Yeah.
to operate in that world, I absolutely agree. I think Junior needs a really strong number two, like almost an overqualified number two, somebody who could be running their own thing, but
Yeah.
they don't want that life. He
Yeah.
needs that good support and a good team around him. Otherwise, he's gonna mess it up himself.
So when you say number two, and I'm sorry, I get into it, but
Yeah,
you
let's
say
get it.
number two. So you think Mikey wasn't a good number two from like a thinking standpoint, like kind of consigliere type, or
Mikey was an ass kisser. Mikey
okay,
was trying to come up. You know,
okay,
that's one thing I love about Bobby, and I know we'll talk about him a lot because we get introduced him to him this episode. Um, Bobby just kind of tells it how it is. Bobby's a little bit just in his own world anyway, and he can't help himself. So it's
yeah,
not even in his innate nature to go along and kiss ass and do all that. We see minor parts of it when he first meets Tony in Satrials, but that's not his character overall. He's not going to play that game for too long. He stands
yeah.
up for himself. Foreshadowing way
Oh
further
man,
on in the series, like
yeah,
Bobby stands up for himself and the
yeah,
shit that he believes in.
yeah. You're
Um,
right.
and
You're
he
right.
ends up being somebody who can, talk to Tony in a certain way other people can, not disrespectfully, but
Yeah.
it grows with them. So I don't think that Mikey was a good number two or consigliere, and I don't think that person exists in this generation, in this world for Junior.
Oh, okay.
You know
Got
what I
you.
mean? I don't even
Yeah.
think that person is around for Junior to make that happen. And if they are, they're
Mm,
just as out of touch with everything that's going on the same way
yeah.
Junior is. Like, look at Philly was with Uncle Junior. That's the type of
Yeah.
people he's keeping around him. You
Okay.
know?
One more. I'm sorry, y'all, but
No,
y'all that are real fans, y'all rocking with us. Y'all that whatever is whatever, but Phil Leotardo, and this is not a big reveal here because I'm not giving anything away, but like, would he have been a equivalent number two for Junior?
I think he's ahead of Junior, like by far. But he's the perfect example that overqualified number two.
Okay. Yeah.
Like that would have been one that goes down in the history books throughout the city. Like
Okay.
if they were to Batman or Robin it, they could have really caused some damage.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I honestly think that, and that's an interesting dynamic to see them together.
Oh yeah. Man, it's like two all-stars linking up on the same ball team,
Yeah,
you know.
man. Phil, I'm a big Phil fan.
I'm a big Phil fan too. I can't
Big
wait
Phil
to get there.
fan.
Moving on, but lastly, I like you said, I like the dynamic, and also just like how they're going back and forth about the hit. And he was just like Tony Flex to say, like, I got ahead of you, but he's like, hey, it almost was you, my little nephew. Like, don't get it twisted. And it really was. Like, low key, people don't realize it's like low key, the black boys to men that they claim they called him, he would have got it off if Junior didn't request him not to be shot in the face. That is the only reason that he low key didn't get it off. That hit would have happened, but he aimed for the body, which obviously he shot the orange juice, and so he got just enough time to react. But if he said headshot, any shot is okay, we might be having a different conversation in reality.
100%. And I think that's a little bit of that too, is Junior letting them know, like, you guys keep playing me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And while there is some truth to that, Junior doesn't believe it. He wants them to know, like you just said, if you wanted to be out of here, I'd have had you out of here.
Yeah. I like it. We go over to the next scene. We go to the construction site. I didn't get the name of these actors. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I don't know. You were real deep in this bag, but these are two. I'm talking about the Reverend and his father, the veteran. These are very well-known Black actors in our community. Strong characters, for them to be or B or C characters here. They're very strong in their careers. But even this moment, we see that the Black workers are standing up because they're on strike because they're not getting any of the joint fitter jobs for whatever reason, which there's a lot more that's going on than we understand at this moment. What did you get from this like construction site scene right here?
Well, before real quick, Bill Cobbs is Reverend James Sr.
Okay.
And then we have Gregland Williams as Reverend James Jr. So those are the actors that play in this scene. But it's just a typical what we expect to see from Black people in Sopranos world. Like just not getting their fair shake, not getting their just due. Obviously, there's more to this story than we know, but at the moment, that's not uncommon for these sites to just have people of not any kind of diverse background. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
And, when it comes to these union jobs, you go looking for work. Some days you don't know if you're working or not. So that's a big deal. That's a lot of money that they're missing out on. So they going straight to the head. We tired of it. We're gonna protest. We're gonna cause a problem for you on your site every single day and make it real uncomfortable.
Yeah, I do like that aspect, and I understood what was going on. It's like whatever y'all finesse and whatever y'all got going, whatever. Like we need to make our money, like because we got families to feed. I like that. I'm not big on, and I talk about this. I just don't like when we pander to the racial differences from one culture to the next as a plot, because it always seems very generic to the black characters. It just feels like y'all didn't take time to do research with how black people are outside of racial issues that we have with people. And so it just feels like, oh, we'll do this will make it interesting and go. Now, I'm not saying that's what they did. These are, genius level writers and creators and directors and all that, but it does always feel like we didn't know where else to take it, so this fits this story, is convenient. But I never like when people do this.
No, I completely understand with you. It reminds me, I don't know, you ever seen Sons of Anarchy?
Nah, that was one of them shows running during the Thrones era, I believe.
Yeah,
like,
Sons of Anarchy is a real good show. I really enjoy it, but they did have this weird thing where, because it's about a biker gang, whenever black characters would come on screen, they play hip hop in the background. Whenever like the Spanish characters come back, it was one of those weird things. I was like, yo, y'all fool me. Like comical, like it was so over the point on top of your head, you was almost laughing at it. Like, come on, y'all, like what y'all doing,
bro?
But I agree with everything you said. I think they can get away with it in this episode because of how that whole situation transpires.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what I mean? To kind of bring it full circle and not just say, hey, this is just how it is. There's more to the story than what we know at the moment. So they get away with it in that sense. I don't know if you saw one of the protest signs said Massaron, because that's the name of the production site, but it had Massa in all capital letters, kind of a play on Massa. We still play age.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's really good.
You know what I mean? So I think the writers were a little bit in touch with what was going on.
Yeah.
So this was, we see that from time to time here in this show, and other shows as well.
Yeah, and I know that this is kind of probably tying it to. I know there was some mob stuff going on. I don't know, 70s, 80s or something. It was on a documentary on Netflix, but this was like a real racket. Like construction was like a real. Real thing or whatever, and they definitely brought the problems when they needed to.
Absolutely.
The Italian mob or whatever. But Massaron, this is a junior racket, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
That little detail will play later.
Sure will. It sure will.
We pan over to Janice and Tony in the driveway. Oh man. Janice, hey, watching it this time is just a game changer, bro. I don't want to stretch out everything here, but we'll cook. But Janice and Tony in the driveway, Meadow, she sees her and she was like wanting to ride with her, but she's like, I got my studies, I got to study French and I got stuff to do, but go and do your thing. And Janice is getting ready to leave, but it's funny because Tony was watering the driveway, and then just like he was patient with it. This is what makes me laugh, because it's like he's smoking a cigar, just doing a casual suburban life, waiting. Okay, cool. He immediately ready to cook her grits. Like, bruh, what was you gathering here? Were you seeing this, like this anger?
Well, the one thing that was not addressed at all in this episode was the fact that Tony's not in therapy. And it was very clear during this scene as a reminder, like Tony is not in therapy right now. In episode 1, they even mentioned it. Carmelo mentioned it. You need to get back into it. In episode 2, it's not even discussed.
Yeah.
And if you kind of get lost in the episode, you forget about Dr. Melfi and you forget about a lot of things. Because a lot of the crew themselves, they weren't in this episode a lot. Chris was only in one scene. This was really a Janice episode. It was a Janice-driven episode. And I think this episode stood for two things. More about who Janice is as a character, which I can kind of agree with Spike, as he said last week, the most gangster soprano, because Janice is a cold-hearted gangster.
She's cold.
In her own way. In her own way. But it gives you an introduction to how she thinks and how she operates. And it's also a big vision episode. You know what I mean? Tony's trying to see things clearer. We started out in episode 1 with he knows Janice is there for a reason, but he's trying to figure out what the actual reason is. He knows something's still off with Big P. but he can't figure it out yet. This is starting to put things into perspective for us.
Okay.
We learned things about P that we were maybe not. Now we know for sure this is going on. Janice is here because she's a sweetheart. Maybe not. Now we know for sure what Janice is doing. When you think about all the eye references in this episode, Vision, like they killed it with it. But
wow,
I love the fact that he just goes from 0 to 100 on her. Tony's the middle child, and you're not gonna little bro me.
Yeah,
you feel me? I'm the boss. And Janice, throughout this entire episode and series, little bro's Tony. She does things and kind of gets no repercussion in only a way a big sister can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was, hey, I want to talk to you about this. Janice is always playing coy, like, oh, I meant to say this, but now that you brought it up, it's a good time for it. He knows she's on some bullshit. And he said, she says, I got a friend who's a realtor. She can charge 3%. Janice knew that before she left from Seattle. You know what I mean? She knew that was going to be a play for her.
Yeah.
He just putting these things piece by piece by piece, scene by scene by scene, until she finally gets what she wants by the end of the episode. And that's how she kind of operates throughout this whole world of Sopranos.
Hold on. So what right here, based on this conversation in the driveway, what was her intention? What was she hoping to gain?
She wants that house.
She wants the house.
She wants the house. She wants the house, absolutely. And that's why she pulled a for sale sign. And she says, oh, you so left brain. This house is still for sale. I just wanted to save some money. The real reason I pulled it is because I know someone that can flip the house. She only charges 3%. I know that's pocket change to you, but mine can use the money. I love Tony's line. Oh, yeah, fuck her. He's so angry at Olivia.
Yeah.
But yeah, she knew that I came from Seattle. I'm not going to be able to stay with Tony the whole time. Mom still has her house. I need to get back in that crib. I need to figure out what kind of earnings I can recuperate while I'm in town. Whether I need to be in somebody's will. I need to make sure I come out whole because things are coming towards an end. And that's Janice's whole play. She's looking out for number one.
3%, that's $5,400. That's still for a person like Janice. That's definitely like, yo, I want that. Like I need $5,400. We know how parents get with that tax check when they got a few kids. That $5,400 is so getting that
she knows Tony won't need it. She knows that's nothing. That's not even worth Tony's time. So she can easily just collect that.
Yeah, she gonna be acting like Franklin from Snowfall when he opened that safe, and he act like that 12,000 wasn't nothing. It was like
that's a great reference. That's a great reference. That's exactly how he would act. Like that's a waste of his time.
Yeah. She I don't think she's the biggest gangster. I still think Tony is, maybe because we were with him so much. But I'm gonna look more into between her and Olivia because it's a neck and neck thing, but she kind of, I don't know, she's kind of like levels ahead of Olivia because she's not married. I think, maybe that plays a part. She can kind of move how she needs. So she may be a bigger gangster, but nonetheless, I like that conversation. I think it's also funny that while he's having this conversation, he's getting mad and he wants the like the later scene about the ketchup, right? The funny, like the attorney can't get the ketchup out, little stupid stuff. Right here, like Tony's getting mad and he wants to throw the hose, but it's still on. So you throw it, it's gonna spray everywhere. Yeah. So it's like this, he wants to throw it, but he can't, and he's just frustrated about that. And that to me is just like those subtle, hilarious things that Sopranos do well, that why I feel so highly about what they can do versus other shows is to take it so far on the dark and menacing, and then in the same token go all the way to real funny where you will actually fall out laughing, like Livia running over her friend and her legs and stockings are on the car. Like that is real funny, you know what I mean? So great scene, but he was so mad though. Golly, he was heated.
That's well said, man. I love when Tony go to 100 like that because he just loses it. He just loses it. And I think you're right. Tony is the biggest gangster, but Janice is a gangster in her own right.
Absolutely.
Like she plays it. She plays it so well.
She gets a body before a significant other does. You know what I mean? Come on now. Come on. We go over to Janice visits Livia, and we seen last episode she was visiting her with Meadow, but Livia was making a statement then, was like, oh, you all you do is come in here and leave, basically, because Janice can't really stand her neither. I think I had a different interpretation the first few times watching this. Like I was like, maybe she's a little closer. But as I spoke before, I think Janice was probably more of a daddy's girl. I mean, we see that in the Down Neck episode, she rode around with Johnny all the time, and so she probably had a relationship with Mom, but not the same as Tony, which we'll get some reveals later about memorabilia. How she really felt about it. But what you say?
I love that you just said that, because it goes to the point we were just talking about, her being a daddy's girl. If Janice was a boy, she'd be the boss.
You say she'd be what?
She'd be the boss.
Facts.
She was the firstborn, and she's already the firstborn. If she was a boy, she has that perfect mix, I feel like, of Johnny and Olivia. Like, absolutely. The way she can spin people and kind of play that, oh, really? Like, I don't know what's going on type of thing, like Olivia.
Yeah.
And it's the way she is matter of fact.
Yeah.
And see the long game. Like, we see it in this scene. Like, this scene is setting up the long game. I know what I want. I got to put it together piece by piece. It almost reminds me of what Chris said in last episode. You don't bleed a guy all the way up front.
Yeah.
Janice is taking her time with it. And Olivia is just as smart, because she peeps what you're doing by the time we get there. So I love to see them go head to head.
Yeah, this is beautiful. You hit it right on the nose. Yeah, because I always look at, and somebody had, I don't remember what they had posted about Many Saints in Newark, and I randomly still get likes from my comment, just random, over time. And what I said on there, what I didn't like about Many Saints was just, I felt like the demeanor of Johnny changed. He was more angry and aggressive versus in here in Down Neck, that episode. And then even maybe we get some more flashbacks. Well, we do get more flashbacks later. Yeah. Well, I feel like Johnny was more charming. He had a charm about him. So when I think about just the traits that we've gotten, I think of him as charming, smooth, but about his business. I think Olivia as consistent, wise, but very pessimistic. Yep. So when I look so when you say that about Janice, I look at her as she does have a charm about her. She charms her way into a few relationships. She can't
100%.
And she does care about being liked. Like how Tony does. As much as he's a gangster stuff, he really cares about being liked for whatever reason. That's a thing for him. So she does care at moments about that. Was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna do this, even though, so you're absolutely right. I think she is. If she was a man, Tony might be Anthony.
Yeah.
Tony might be Anthony. You know what I'm saying? For real. So
maybe.
But Janice, her latest scam she was speaking about was a self-help video, Lady Kerouac. Bruh, I thought this was funny, and I also said, bro, this probably work today.
It would 100% work. Yeah, I think that's right in that Miss Cleo time, and where you just kind of put yourself out there as something and sell it, and that will happen. And I just love how so self-aware she is, as far as Janice putting out a self-help book is just comedy in itself.
Yeah,
like that's hilarious.
Because you think about her finesses, her finesse game is different, because she is getting, disability for her hands, and she worked at a coffee shop. Yeah. So really, if she was in the mob for real, her rackets would be on that level, but she's doing it from a civilian level, which is crazy. Yeah.
That's a good pull right there.
There's an insightful line here I thought that Olivia says. She says, you could never stand it here or yourself. What do you think she meant by that?
She didn't know, and you can even tie this back into the fact that maybe she wasn't the firstborn. The thing that she would have been really good at, she didn't have an opportunity to do. And I think she kind of grew up as somewhat of an outcast. If you think about that era, they grew up, in the 70s? Yeah. A lot of things going on just throughout the country. We see she's kind of billed as a hippie.
Yeah, definitely.
Moves out to Seattle, and she didn't know exactly what to do with her life. She didn't see her parents do honest work for a living.
Yeah.
She didn't see them go to school or college. So if you're thrown into that world and you're not being raised to have a certain plan, you just kind of do what you want to do. And she knew she didn't want to be around her mom. I forget it, and I don't know if it's ever alluded to when Johnny died.
Yeah.
But once he did, I think she knew right away, like, I'm out of here. I'm not getting anywhere near this woman. And we see the tenseness of their relationship, and she's been going for however many years.
Yeah.
So I think she knew, like, you don't even know who you are in a sense. Like, you run away from all your problems. And that's how I took it.
You know, also watching it again, like that's the power of podcasting, because watching it this way, I kind of feel for when we get to the pool scene, I go a little bit more, but I never felt much for Janice.
Okay.
You know, she was gone for 20 years. I never felt much for, like, you know, how she came off, but of course that's the way it's meant to come off. But the more we really peel the layers back here, I'll go more into it for the sake of time, because I'll go here, but I'll say that there's some emotions and some thoughts kind of moving a little differently as I'm watching it this time around. I wanted to ask, with that line, do you think Tony feels the same way about himself, that he can't stand it there or himself because of that concept I talked about season 1, of always wanting something else? We'll get later. Maybe I could start over. Maybe I could do it right this time, or you know how he keeps alluding to the golden days. Like lately, I feel like I came in at the end. You know what I mean? Or
I think Tony I think he has thoughts of what his life would look like if he took a different route.
Okay.
I think he's deep enough into it to know that this is what it is. So I don't think he spends too much time harping on it. I think he knows who he is, even though he does and he doesn't. You know, he's a master manipulator. He wears a lot of hats. He plays a lot of characters. You know, that's a big reason he's in therapy to begin with.
Yeah.
So I don't think he looks at himself in the same way Janice does. But if I wasn't the one, he does hold that resentment. You know, I'm the one that's been here, taking care of her, been miserable, trying to do everything I can to be a decent son, and I get nothing in return for it other than a hit. So I don't think he really plays it that way, but he's also searching for himself for sure.
Okay. Lastly, another black sighting here. The nurse is black. You know, she got the Cisco cut. You know, y'all didn't know about the 90s. I know the Cisco cut. So we get a few black sightings this episode. Olivia lastly, she said something about, you don't know your father and what he put me through. It almost seemed like when she said this, it's kind of like she was trying to get under her skin a little bit, because I think the daddy girl thing, like, and how she reps Johnny, kind of like, you don't understand. But it's a weird thing that she does, because again, and well, let me ask, I'll wait till we get to when AJ visits, because I want to ask you about what side do you fall on with Livia's memory. So this is probably, when we get there, I'll see kind of where you go with it, and I'll kind of elaborate a little more.
Yeah, man. But just real quick about that scene, Livia says, I gave my life to my children on a silver platter. You know, she said, going along with what you were mentioning about her dad, like her memory of, and I think we saw this in season 1 as well, when she talked about how Johnny was a saint.
Yeah.
You know, obviously we know in flashback scenes and other things that Johnny wasn't necessarily a saint, and she didn't feel that way about it when he was alive.
Yeah.
So that's just her, you know, she's playing a guilt game, you know, push me out a window, open up the window, push me out. Like, she's doing all that because she knows what Janice is up to. She knows that she at this point is just a pawn in the big game, and she's ready to move on from that because she sees herself bigger than that.
Yeah. She got it off too. A short scene here. We get Tony and the union rep talking about fixing the protest. Maybe you can provide some insight. I was trying to understand how this racket is working, because we later get the reveal with Tony working with the Reverend. But I guess I was trying to understand how's this working, from what angle, and who's in charge. Kind of like with Wabistics. Like, I'm kind of, and I don't necessarily think the show is meant to like clue us in detail by detail what's happening. But I guess I didn't understand in the way it was kind of working. You know what I mean? So
I going with what you just said, I don't even think they made it for that.
Okay.
As far as who was running what, I just know that, you know, I'm trying to run a site, and I got protesters here, and I need them going. This is bad for business. I need this cleared up. And that's pretty much the ins and outs of it. And I know that you know, Jack Masserone mentioned, I was hoping that you can clean it up like you did some of your unions. And this is Tony's play overall. Like, Tony knows, like, you're gonna be the one calling me to help fix you up. That's why he says it's gonna cost you. And he goes on like that. But I don't know what extent it's messing it up as far as money. And I don't know why you just don't let the protester stay as far as having to pay him to get rid of him. But it was just showing that Tony's in another play.
And then I didn't think about it. This is a transitional period too. He's boss. This is Junior's racket.
Yeah, that's an important part of it too.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's so now he having but he see how quickly the tone changes. It's like, oh, you talking real slick right now, you know, when it comes to this. And he kind of disassembles him right there real quick. He was like, oh, my bad, you know what I mean? Like he had to chill out a little bit, you know what I mean? So yeah, okay.
Yeah, all right. Nobody's innocent in that world.
No, not at all. We go over to, I think we're at the back of Satrial's, I believe.
We're back at Satrial's, man. We meet Bobby.
Yeah, Big P, Tony. We meet Big Bobby Bacala. This is Spike Lee's guy. We ain't gonna get a whole lot of that at this moment because there's a lot of character development happening. But Bobby Bacala, the lovable bear.
Yeah, that's Bobby top 5, man.
Bobby top 5 character for you.
Bobby top 5, yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any Bobby phrase that that you rock with, like, or just as a line that you think about when you think about Bobby? I definitely have one.
What's yours?
It's so simple. It's later down the road where he started smelling himself. He didn't have a whole lot of time to smell himself. Yeah. But when he started feeling himself, he pulled up and the dude came, dropping off the money. What, you ain't no envelope? Like,
hey man, Bobby's yeah. He might be, he's top 5 character. He might be top 3 funnies.
He might be top 3 funnies.
Such a subtle sense of humor.
Yeah, it's hard because you got Chris, Paulie, them two already.
I'll be real. The one Bobby line that I always think about, and I'm not gonna say much about it, I'm just gonna say the line, "Whoa, it's my wife we're talking about."
You Sopranos take it too far.
Yeah, man. I don't want to say too much about that.
Yeah, because that's a great.
That's like the defining Bobby.
Yes, yes. Because it was like even off pitch, but anyway,
look on his face, everything.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I know y'all like, what are y'all talking about for people that ain't seen it? Don't worry, there'll be a point.
You'll get there.
Trust me, you'll get there. But Bacala, Bobby, he's doing Junior's business for him right now while he's still in prison at the very moment. And they set up this meeting. So Tony, he's chilling, great posture. I love the fit, by the way, the full cream polo with the slacks. He was ripping it right here, dog. Like
freshest of the episode.
Yeah, this is definitely freshest of the man. Come on,
with the gold watch too. Yeah, man. Tony was killing it.
There's a guy on Instagram that he did a video about all of the watches on The Sopranos. He does it with different shows, bro. These watches were expensive. We talking 68 grand, 34 grand. I'm like, yo,
yeah, there's some nice timepieces. You can tell.
Yeah.
So
basically, Bacala comes in and he's doing all of he's being the direct line of communication between Junior and Tony. What are some things that stood out to you at this introduction of Bobby and kind of how this meeting is going down in the pork store?
The biggest thing is that Bobby's like the last man standing of Junior's crew. He's the one that by default, because we need to communicate with Junior still, by default, you got to stay around. So you're the lucky winner. And Tony just flexing on him like he has been Junior and everybody else. There's a lot of funerals in your corner of the world. You know what I'm saying? He's letting him know, I run things. Don't act like you like me because I know it's not true. But now you don't have a choice because I'm the guy.
Hey, but hold on. I thought Bobby was genuine. He said, I never had no problem with you.
I don't think he never had a problem with Tony, but Tony's not there to play nice with Bobby. He wants him to know, like, I am the guy. So there's no buddy right now. You still Junior's dude. I still look at you that way. You're going to have to earn your keep. And like I said, the only reason you're around is because you have to be around. If it was up to me, and I don't know if on a personal level he dislikes Bobby, even though he has a lot of disdain for him and a lot of comments about his weight. But he knows that Bobby needs to be there as a caretaker for Junior and that middleman. So it is what it is. He obviously lets Bobby know that he's going to let Junior continue to earn pretty much at the bare minimum. You're going to get enough just to survive, pay your legal fees, live, but everything else belongs to me. Like I said, it's just that Tony flexing. Look
man.
at his position, man. Look at him in the office. He obviously sets the scene with his whole crew behind him. Tony's in a chair with his feet up. Like, this is easy for me. Like, I took over your whole operation. This is easy work. Like, Bobby, fall in line.
Yeah. I survived the hit, bro.
Yeah.
I survived the hit and came out on top. Like,
and then Tony said, we don't know Bobby in season 1, but obviously he's been around. So Tony said, for all I know, everybody was in on that. All y'all knew about this.
Okay. Got you. Yeah.
So I got no love for none of y'all.
That's a great way to put it. I didn't think about it. You're right. It's like I have to assert myself this way because you're right. It could, for all I know, you're right. I ain't even think about that. That's a great pull. In black terms, he said, "Tell that bald nigga that calls himself my father's brother that I'm going to let him keep earning at a subsistent level." I don't know what subsistent is, but that almost sounds like a worker level. Like,
yeah, just the bare. I'm gonna make sure he has enough to survive. All them trips to Boca, that shit over with.
Yeah, it's over with. That Boca thing.
Yeah,
it's a no-go.
Any extra expenditures that you plan on or got, it's over, bro.
Y'all are super OV. And Bobby says that he inherited Junior, who was his boss before. So I don't know if this plays into, like, Big Bacala, his dad, that we'll see about later. But that speaks volumes because it's like, okay, me and Junior not even like, which now starts to make sense to understand the chemistry being built and even understanding like how the care level kind of changed, but it wasn't really there at first, because it's like I inherited him. It wasn't even like, bro, I was rolling with him. Like, Bobby was probably junior varsity. You know what I mean? He wasn't really even looked at to be on the varsity squad. Now, by default, because a player's injured, so to speak, he's now on the squad. That's what it almost comes off to me like when he says that. But what was you gonna say?
I was gonna say, and that's why Bobby's on that. Like, yo, I've always liked you. Like, I ain't even, I'm not even tied in with dude. Just to, if you do think I knew something about it, I wasn't even around when all that was being set up. Like, I kind of, that could be his way of flipping it. Like I said, we don't know the exact timeline, but
but we I think we're getting a lot out of it. Tony says, tell him you get 5% of his his shy, 5% of his sports, business, his betting, 5% of the coke. Now, I didn't know what coke he was referring to because I know they ain't big on drugs, so I don't know what they're referring to when he said 5% of the coke.
Yeah, cocaine.
Oh, they really. Oh, well, this. Yeah. But wait, what would Junior be doing with the being involved? He's old school. Like, they really despise that in the mob, like moving drugs. Like, you seen it in Godfather. Like, they like, what?
Yeah, I don't know what kind. I'm sure he has some kind of operation set up.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's far away from it. That's the only thing that I can think of as far as coke. The Shylock business made sense. That was pretty much a loan shark.
Okay.
And everything else, but yeah, there's no other form of coke that I could think of. But I was kind of surprised to hear that he was involved in it, but also not.
Yeah.
Any underworld dealing, I think he's going to try to have his hand in it.
Yeah. And then he said, this is this line that I want to tie back to the construction scene. He said, "In the joint fitters union is all his." So the headache that Tony has for them, it's all his. So whatever they profit or don't, it's almost like, bro, I really don't care about this because this is way more of a headache than I want to be involved with for real. Because this micromanagement is not really Tony's move. He really don't like that. So I love that he said that's all his, but he's flipping it like, I'm doing you a favor. So I thought that was a really interesting thing that he did. And, just on the way out of the scene as we go to the next one, Bobby's like, to the, what does he say? To the
victor goes
the spoils. He's like, boy, if you don't like, dude, like, that man, is
too much, man. Take your fat fucking quotation book and get out of here. Yeah, I'm like that, man. Tony, they show no regard for Bobby, man.
Oh, I love it, man. It's gonna be funny when we get to the later scene. How Bobby reacts when he walks off. It's like, I'll wait till we get there.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
Oh yeah. So we go over to Big P in a hospital. It's not a long scene. And then I'm gonna tie that in with him riding with the Fed.
Yeah.
We find out. So it's funny that we know him. He got arrested for selling H, but at this moment he's kind of high, like he's on H. So I just thought, I don't know how intentional that was. I'm not the overly deep guy when it comes to like pulling out these type of tie-ins, but if it is, that's dope. If not, then it's cool too. But
he had to be high for his decision making in this scene.
Yeah,
like I don't understand why he had Skip there to drive him anyway.
Well, Big P's car is recognizable.
Yeah.
So he probably has to ride with this guy. And then the guy's dressed in a jumpsuit. So he kind of can pass for like a friend of theirs, you know?
Yeah, but wouldn't it make sense if you've been going all this time and you've been talking about it because of your back and everything else? It would make more sense for P to have somebody from the crew like, yo, I got this back procedure. I need somebody to drive me.
Oh,
that way they can be there and even see, like, I was in there with him. I talked to the doctor. My man's back is really messed up. Like, I even drove him. Kind of puts a little bit more validation to his story. Okay. What you're saying is 100% true. Skip is, if you didn't know any better, I think on my first watch, I don't even know if I picked up that he was a Fed until they started to get deeper in conversation. But he looks just like a friend of theirs.
Yeah,
that's what he looks like.
He do.
So that part makes sense. But I just don't understand why that's the only person he would have called to, take care of him, especially when he doped up like that. Like he could have been saying.
But that's the thing, though. Think about it. If you get high, people that have been high or drunk before or whatever, like if I got you in my presence and I can't account for what's going to come out of my mouth, I'm under the influence. I might just reveal some stuff I wasn't supposed to say because Big P is getting it off right now. He came back, like I said last episode. You didn't get whacked. You got the guys believing you with Tony being suspect, which is really the key person, but you got that off and you're back earning. So less is more. I almost feel like if I brought them there, even if I wasn't high and didn't say anything, they may start checking out charts. They may start seeing insurance. Who is this covered by? Or, I don't know it because the only thing that's going to work for Big P is the less information I give, the better I can flow, because then I have to continue to stack up that lie. So maybe that's going into him being a wise guy. Maybe he's like, I'm better off doing this. But your point makes a lot of sense too. It's like, yo, all I need is this one time to validate. But Paulie checked out his stuff and said, hey, his stuff checks out.
Nah, you make a great point. And he probably even told Skip, wear a tracksuit. Like, I want you to look like we really tight.
Yeah.
Just in case anybody asks any questions, you don't look like a Fed. He doesn't look like a Fed aesthetically.
No, not at all.
So you make a good point. I stand corrected. I think I like what you're going with.
Okay. And I even like how he was talking too. Like I'm a big fan of, I know Spike is not so much of a fan, but I I watch sports and I go in like not just I'm rooting for the back and forth. I love that. That's more of what I'm here for. So here I like the Skip coming in here, the Fed coming in here talking and like kind of manipulating the situation where he's like, man, didn't you tell me, he did such and such, and man, you don't owe him nothing. Like in the way he's just playing it, he's talking that talk, but on the Fed, on the other side of which I think is just so dope, because you see, like, just like with black people, there's black people on the other side of the force, and there's black people that are civilians that are or criminals or whatever. So you see kind of both sides. And same here with the Italian on the mob guy, and then the Italian on the other side with the suit. So, but what are some things you gathered from the car scene of this part of it?
Well, for one, how deep in Big P was. He'd been with them since '98. So longer than what I even suspected. We know the show came out in '99, and we're currently in 2000, but this has been a couple of years now.
Yeah.
So who knows what types of things. Another thing is the Jimmy Altieri comment that he made. Jimmy took the bullet so you can be in the clear. Some people look at that comment as Jimmy wasn't really a rat. I think we had enough evidence in season 1 to know that he was.
Yeah.
But it also just astonished me how many people in one organization they have. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just gonna leave it there, but we already know about 2, and it's just crazy how many just in one org that they have all this kind of insight, and they really trying to put a pin in them for the most part. But there was a line that Skip had to P. Well, let me back up some. It's very clear that P looks at Tony like a brother.
Yeah,
and he has, he asked him. Skip asked P, "Have you gone to see Tony yet?" He says, "No, I haven't seen it yet." We obviously know that's not true.
Yeah.
So he's trying to hold back information. He's trying to still figure out in his head, how can I get myself from under this trap? Because I don't have a lot of time, and I don't want to send anybody to jail. And I know how this is going to end if things go a certain way. But one interesting line Skip had was, I've seen guys dragging their feet and playing both sides against the middle. We see a lot of that in this episode itself. It's like that line ties into what this whole episode is about. You know,
Yeah.
people playing both sides against the middle. You know, Janice is doing it with Tony and Livia.
Mhm.
Tony's doing it with the union and the protesters. Like, we see all of that. So I love how they just dropped that in there.
That's fine.
And then, yeah, I think that overall that's it. But we just see that, and most importantly, it's the defining moment where, all right, I'm not crazy. P is actually telling him he's working with the feds.
Yes.
We never had that for sure. It's always been alluded to. We've always been 98% sure, but this closed the door and made it 100%.
Yeah. You know, the craziest thing is I feel like they have to be so sensitive, and we'll get more to it like when we get more scenes with him and this Skip officer or whatnot. But like, he is the best informant that you got.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I feel like they're pulling out the stops when it comes to, we're gonna give you this back surgery, we're gonna hit you with this needle, get your back right, and we're gonna keep doing it because he's like, man, look, bro, like, all right, man, like, you are really finessing us on this back surgery, bro. What's up? Like, we need something, because he was, and I thought that was just funny because it's like, all right, man, like, you riding the feds, you know what I mean, fees on your back, trying to, you know, come on, man, like, so but the line that he says, and we'll move on, is he says, man, he tries to use it, said, man, you're Tony's errand boy. Do you think Big P was that at this point? Because we get that scene in season 1 where he was like, do you got a license plate? And he basically finds out who stole AJ's teacher's car, and he goes through it, which kind of made him look kind of like an errand boy in that moment. So
yeah, because well, I don't think he's his errand boy, but there was the mention of, you know, you said it yourself that you know, he's been treating you bad for years now.
Yeah.
I think that if you have enough people in your ear saying a certain thing, you can maybe start believing it.
Okay.
You can look at anything from any perspective depending on who's telling it to you. You know, Tony put more affirmation into P, then maybe he would look at it differently. But he knew exactly, you know, these guys their job is to manipulate. You know, so he knew exactly what button to push. And like you said, he has a long leash compared to probably a lot of other people, because not only is he, you know, right up under Tony, but he's one of Tony's best friends. Like, if they wanted to, they can get Tony on some shit from the 89, because P was probably there for it.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So he's like the crown jewel, because you his best friend and you were part of it. And we got you on H. Like, we got you on a real charge.
Real charge, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We go over to the scene. Uncle Junior meets with the judge. They got him all the way. They got him all the way dressed up. He got wires hanging out his nose. You know, he's all looking old, like old and crippled man. Like, you know, which is funny because how he feels about doing things later down the road. But this is a thing I believe. I can't remember the name, but one of, you know, back in the day, the real mafia. There was one guy. Actually, I think Gigante. That's actually in Godfather of Harlem. The show, as well as, but a real mob boss that was, you know, he actually got off on like being mentally like insane, you know, and it worked, you know. So this is probably a nod to that in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I bet you people got this off, especially the older mob guys. But yeah, just this was a thing that they used to do. Like, they would try to like come up with the older mob guys, I'd imagine, try to come up with a finesse. But it's even funny, like, how insensitive the other attorneys was. It's like, man, he just got clogged arteries, man. That's all.
They know the game. They probably seen this. This is a tale as old as time on some Beauty and the Beast shit.
Yeah,
you know
man.
what I mean, they've seen this a million times, and they can't believe the judge is going for it.
Yeah, and but Junior, not, you know, he Junior is like smart but dumb. Like, we see this all the time with which most characters are, with the exception of Tony. Like, he says, you know, how do you feel about wearing like a, you know, monitor and stuff? He says, I think it's like Nazi Germany to me. I was like, oh, dude looked at him crazy. Was he a Jew? Was we to assume?
Yeah, him and the attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why his attorney said, like, let's not yours our shared. You know what I mean? That's why he had that comment. Yeah, Junior don't. Yeah, he's.
Because I thought the judge. I'm like, I didn't know if the judge was an Italian judge or Jewish. So I'm like, when he said it, he gave him that look, and I was like, oh,
he was Jewish, man. This scene is hilarious. This is a funny episode. Like, this is a low-key one of their most funniest episodes. But yeah, that's Junior just always putting his own foot in his mouth.
Yeah. And I think Junior is the perfect person to take the hit for the indictments because this play was put into place. So great person to take all those blows because it ended up working out in the favor of the mob. So that was a good play. Tony goes and
I'm sorry. One important thing I just want to point out about that scene: we found out that Junior is a World War II veteran. Just keep that in your mind.
That's actually true.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that is true.
Okay.
Because I think there's other mention to it, but just keep that in your mind. I want to reference that later on.
World War II. Okay, gotcha. He's a
World War II veteran.
That's probably why some of them dudes, if they were in there, they probably came out and the country didn't do nothing for them. That's how they probably end up getting into the mob. It's like, bro, just like us, when you see us end up going to the streets and all that, you serve this country, come back, and then it's be like, man, they ain't got no love for me. The gang don't love me. They go out there to the streets and
man, dead presidents. Highlighted that perfectly.
Boy, come on. We go over to Tony goes to visit the Reverend Junior, but Senior comes out. And Tony decides to go in there and have a conversation with him for a moment. There's this moment Tony's looking at this picture and he's like, man, you used to be a handsome guy.
Still am.
I still am, bro. Like, what you talking about, dog? Like, yeah,
that's a smooth old black man response.
Hey, man, let me tell you something. The gentleman that plays his father right here, I love this actor. There is something so comforting about his presence in everything he plays, but especially here. He just has that strong, deep voice, kind of like Morgan Freeman. And he was like, he's talking about that Bible shit. Now, only Bible shit is when Pharaoh, he goes into it, he stands on his beliefs, and then he takes it even further. And he was just, going on about this story. He still got his original teeth and talking about him being a veteran. And, Tony's what I like here is Tony's trying to figure out how to connect here. Tony, the Italians in this world, blacks in this world, they don't really talk and get along that much unless it's a financial gain situation. So I'm always very intrigued at when there is this type of connection. What did you think about this encounter with him and the Reverend? Because again, it's another black sighting. I mean, from earlier, but still, nonetheless, another black sighting here. What you get from this encounter?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that actor, man, him and Nino Brown got history, man. I'm going to leave it at that. In case somebody hasn't seen the movie, even though you should have. It came out in 91.
Come on.
Mainly about Tony is it shows just how much he respects history and he respects his elders. Maybe not his elders, but he longs for an OG. One thing that when you first, when they come in and they have a conversation, Tony's comfortable with them. Maybe the most comfortable we saw him in throughout this whole episode. He felt like he was at home. He's drinking a Coke.
Yeah.
For two people who have just met, there was some kind of familiarity there.
Yeah.
Even though Tony was there for business. And I think that's because Tony gravitates, we've learned already about him. He loves history. He even mentioned the history panel in the scene. He loves learning. He wants that OG because he's never had it. He never had Johnny around as an adult, as a grown man to really show him the ropes. He wants Junior to be that person, but Junior's a slime ball and turn his back and put a hit out on him.
Yeah.
Dickie Montesanti, he never had the chance to have that shared experience. So he looks around and he sees James Jr. He's like, okay, then this old dude's kind of cool, and he's kind of comfortable. So he also can see, going back to what I said about Vision, he sees that he's not going for what me and your son got going on. Like, I know that right now. I can just tell within this 5 minutes of conversation. So let me get up out of here. But we also learned that he's a World War II veteran as well. So once again, tying back to Uncle Junior, once we get to the end of the episode and the conversation that James Jr. and Tony have, Tony realizes, like, man, my love of this generation, I realize that maybe time's running out.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of similarities that he sees, like I said, between him and his uncle. This is who I wish my uncle was, and that these are kind of I wish I can go to Junior's house and have a Coke and just kind of talk to him about whatever. That's what I picked up from the scene. It was very interesting, especially being a character we didn't know and a black character. Like I said, Tony is very, very comfortable. Yeah,
and he's normally, and this ain't a business meeting. He was there for business, and Tony's not really a small talk guy. He's not really there for small talk. So I like the effort that he was trying to do just to kind of pass by time waiting for your son to get here. but like you said, he has appreciation for history, and I love where we go when we get to this later scene with him and Junior, James Jr.
Yeah, man. He knew he could learn something. Think about it. Tony was asking a lot of questions, like how old were you? You were this age when they took you in. That's why he was, able to maneuver in that scene like that. So it was great character time.
He loves wisdom. Melfi will refer him to a book later, and then also Tony doesn't really look at younger guys for, kind of inspiration. He always looks behind. He never looks forward when it comes to information, unless they maybe they got a racket. But I don't really. Other than that, he don't really look to them that way. But yeah, nonetheless, man, great scene. I like to see him here. With it just, to me, there's something, and maybe you can help me out when we get to the end scene, but I just want to see what it is with Tony. He goes back and forth when it comes to other ethnicities, but specifically Black, about where he wants to not like and kind of be racist, and then where he just kind of be like, oh, okay, I'm all right with this.
Yeah.
And where, I guess, where it affects him and then where it doesn't bother him at all. So we'll get more about that when we go a little further down. You can maybe help me with that, because there's some stuff later down the road. And we go over to Tony's over here in the doctor's office. This weird thing happens. Tony gets scared by Uncle Junior opening the door. He kind of jumps back, but then he did the same thing the scene before with the Reverend Senior. When he opens the door, he jumps. So you know what? That might be a subtle thing about him having some PTSD, maybe from the hit. Maybe just.
I think it's that, and I think like I say, if you really wanted to break it down, there's so many themes of vision in this episode, and I think those scenes those are two moments where Tony doesn't know what to expect. He's not expecting James Sr. to come, so it startles him a little bit. Okay. This doctor's office, he doesn't know what's going on. He's confused as to why they're even meeting there to begin with. So I think it might just be a little character trait of that, but it also could be PTSD. I mean, like, the man just got in broad daylight on a busy street, like, you know what I mean? So I can definitely understand that too. Like,
you know how loud them screen doors is. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. On the first watch, I'm startled when the OG James comes down. I'm like, damn, where you come from,
bro? Because he was upstairs looking for him, and then okay, I think I like your idea of it. I think, especially maybe more so here, because in the outside it makes a little more sense, but right here it's like you said, it's like not knowing what to expect. But nonetheless, they come in here and basically Junior's out. They let him out. It was approved by the judge with stipulations, and here we are. We have them two in here having a conversation. Uncle Junior, Tony, they're having their first real meeting with Junior having some form of freedom. What did you gather in this small meeting that they had with one another?
Well, it's the first real time to really be face to face since everything's transpired. Tony's already made it clear that I'm taking things over, and he gets to kind of feel Junior out. Like, don't let me feel like this is going to be a problem. And Junior's kind of sitting there. Tony tells him, "Don't pout. You lucky you earn it."
Hey,
you get what I'm saying? So I also think that it was genius, and we'll see this throughout the seasons. Him being able to use that doctor's office. Dr. Shrek, the son of a bookie, he's able to make that play and have these meetings because they can't bug it. That's a big thing later on.
Boy,
I'm just foreshadowing. And the Masseron deal is in place, so obviously they're talking business. And Junior makes up bringing peace with Livia. He brings it back up, making peace with Livia. He tells Junior, let it go. He gets pretty upset about it. And he finally played his hand and let him know, like, I heard you and Livia on the tapes.
Yeah.
And Junior defends her and says, she didn't know. And, you think I'm an idiot. Your uncle's smarter than what he looks like. But that goes back to what we were mentioning earlier in this episode. I think at that very first scene.
Yeah.
He heard those tapes and he knows that Livia was putting out that hit on him. He knows that she was scaring him. He knows that Junior got played no matter what he says.
Yeah.
Like, played you into putting out a hit on me. Tying into what he was talking about as far as, man, I shouldn't have made fun about him giving head.
Yeah.
He knows that was a business decision. No matter how much it hurt him personally, Junior had a business decision to take him out.
Yeah.
Livia had no reason to kill her child. And I think that's why she's more dead to him and he can still stomach Uncle Junior. Because at the end of the day, they speak the same language.
Okay.
He understands how, no matter how petty and no matter how much I thought that you would never make that kind of move against me, and I'm disappointed that you let my mom kind of coax you into that.
Yeah.
I at least can understand that there was merit there. He acknowledged it. I think we don't. It helps that they acknowledge that in season 1.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And like I said, I think that's the tie as to why he's not as angry at Junior or
how he can still conduct.
He hates Libya.
Yeah, it's a whole totally different grounds. I like that he like you. Junior says she was basically she was out of it, bro. She was out of pocket. She ain't understand what she was saying. Oh, okay, she don't. You let her play you like a freaking kid. Like I like the fact that it's like, oh, so she wasn't. And what does that make you look like? You really are Joe jerk off. Because now you're saying she didn't know. Oh, so she didn't know that. How do you let her? I made that call on my own. No, you didn't. You had a battery in your back and you think I'm stupid. Like I'm not Mikey Palmisi, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like you try to think I'm not stupid, bro. I love how Tony came at him on that, and you know, love that they're able to still conduct business, and he yearns for that OG thing. And I think once the later events that happen at the end of the episode, I think the yearn becomes stronger where it's like, okay, this is what it is. This is my family. This is what it's got to be. But right here, you know, he's still doing business. He needs this. But I do like, lastly, on this scene, Uncle Junior reveals the source of the rumor going around came from the owner of Green Grove. So
that hairpiece motherfucker.
Man, I love that. Man, I love that.
Junior was so mad that spit on the ground like that.
And then he got the nerve to say that me and her when we were. So I'm like, oh, okay. So Junior really wasn't looking at it like, because I was back and forth about maybe he's lying. I don't know. These characters majority of the time are lying, but he's like, how could he even think that me and her had something going on? He's old school, so maybe it wasn't nothing going on. But it almost makes me feel like it wasn't a waste of time, but the Philly kill, I'm like, dang, I ain't killed Philly for nothing. He was running his mouth, but he ain't even the source, you know. But you know, it's fair game, I guess. You know, that could have been Tony. So
he was still saying something, still had to go.
Gotta go. We pan over to a family dinner. This episode is gonna go up. We really doing a deep dive. This feel like the pilot. We pan over to the family dinner. Janice, Meadow, AJ, Carmela, Tony, they're eating, having a conversation. And I love you. If y'all are listeners, y'all know I love like kind of these mundane things, these family things. It's an element that we don't see as much these days. And so I love the idea that ain't no cell phone. There ain't no TV on. We're sitting here, and because now it's like we don't really sit down and have dinner because I know what your day was like. We've been texting. You know, here it's like I have no idea what your day was like. Yo, spill the beans. What happened?
Yeah.
So I like and miss this aspect of sitting down. They got a glass of wine. They eating some salad, some mac and cheese. You know, the kids they're getting into it. I'm loving this element. And there's a lot of things that are happening here, and these scenes they use really well for gyms. There's probably I imagine probably some reel or some YouTube compilation of what the dinner scenes symbolize. I'd imagine because there's always they drop a lot of gems in the dinner scenes. That's where we got the Uncle Junior giving head jokes started. You know what I'm saying? Which all led to this right here, Carmela making jokes, and then from that point on, so it's really a significant thing. But what are pieces you gathered from this?
It was just a play for Janice. This scene was set up to show Janice's true intent. She brings up the house again. She keeps disregarding Tony's request not to bring up their mother. She pays no mind to that, and she just keeps getting closer to that house. I also thought it was funny, Janice saying that Libya is a complete narcissist and it's about me. And she's really just describing herself that whole time. That's exactly what Janice is doing. She's making everything about her. When she pushes those buttons, she's a big baby. Once again, talking about herself to a degree, even though she's talking about Libya.
Yeah.
So that was funny. And then just Tony being annoyed. Like Tony, once again, his annoyance in this episode just kept showing to me he is not in therapy at the moment. So how is he going to react? How is he going to respond?
Yeah. This is let me ask this: are you fan with or without with or without therapy? Soprano
with
fan
therapy, 100%. This show is
true.
Yeah,
True
this
fan.
show is
All
a
right.
whole. That takes us to a whole nother level. This is a good episode, but
Yeah,
this show needs the therapy, and it's weird in this season 2 when you had
it
those
is.
episodes without the therapy.
Yeah,
Because
because they could have left it off here. They
Yeah.
never had to come back if they didn't want to.
Absolutely, and they reveal so much about Tony. They give you a better insight to him and what he's got going on and how the pieces fit together. So I'm 100% team therapy.
Okay, this actually, and it gives you the idea of this is what life was like for Carmela probably for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really high strung, and it's getting worse because he's boss. So
Yep.
the therapy is like, Tony, I cannot do this, which we see the last episode. Go out there, go have some pleasure, like go somewhere, bro. So man, it does provide insight. So yeah, definitely, I'm team therapy. Like without the therapy, the show still would be legendary, but it's not the same kind of show. I don't think you have the same sympathizing, and you definitely don't have the same complexity of a mob boss. Like we see movies now where they do these psycho killers or these, you know, shows like You or whatever, and you get the insight so they can pull at your heartstrings on like it ain't just they're not just a regular character. They got issues. They had this. Well, without shows like this, you don't get that, you know, where you can pull off the anti-hero and make you care. So right, I definitely think the therapy, but Tony says something, makes this joke about meat or something with Janice. And then so he's like, let me see, I gotta have this quote because AJ chimes in. He's like, oh, I get no, he said, no, it wasn't this. It's the next thing. Sorry. AJ says he just said something about a prick at the table, and she's like, see, now look what you got him doing. You know, but I think it's the next scene. We get a small scene of the police find a car next by the river, and all we find is a hairpiece.
Brilliant.
Cool. We don't need to see the hit. We don't need to see the whack. You know,
not for a character like that. We don't even know who this dude is. We don't even know. Capuano is. We never seen him before. We just know he had to go, and the brilliant writing of the hairpiece. That's how we know it was him. And they obviously panned a green grove before that. I thought it was
great.
Kind of
that was great. Surprised they ain't try to get a finesse off that car, but I guess it makes it simple. You know.
Yeah. They wanted it to be known. Sometimes you want it to be known that kind of like what Big P told Chris. They know, but they don't know. Stop running your mouth. Everybody knows you were the one running your mouth about the Sopranos. Now you missing.
Yeah.
What happened to him?
Buried over the hill with pine cones and
exactly.
We go over to Auntie of the Year over here. Janice and Meadow are driving, and it looks like they're both high. I mean, definitely Janice is smoking, but it look like Meadow's high. Would you agree that she probably hit that blunt a few times?
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me because Meadow, as we see, I think in the very next episode, Meadow's partying. You know, she's at that age now, so it won't surprise me. And Janice is the type of aunt that will let that slide. Let me ask you something. Are you surprised by kind of the rapport that Janice and Meadow have? Because Janice seems like she's been going for forever. I think 20 years is what we're told. Meadow is only 16.
Yeah.
I don't know how often Janice would come back home and visit, but it seemed like they were very tight for somebody who's not actually around in her life.
You know what I think works? Meadow has kind of, she's not like Janice as far as like really eclectic, I guess, or like a hipstery type, but she is like Janice in where Olivia says that you couldn't stand it here, you can't stand yourself. I think like Meadow's pushing so hard to not be, Dad, are you in the mafia? Or, you know, this or that, try to push, and we'll see that theme until she finally, you know, switches over. But like, she wants to do something else. Even her dating, she's dating outside of Italian. She wants to do things differently. And I think Janice is probably a real comfort zone. It's like, man, you escaped the family for 20 years. Like so when I'm talking about the family almost in third person, like I'm not involved.
Yeah.
You know how it is. You like, oh, you get it too. So I feel like there's where the comfort comes. She's at the age of understanding things now where she could talk to adults some and at least get some of the gist. And, you know, I think Janice she's a cool aunt anyway, because, well, we'll get some reveal later, but she never really handled her responsibility. So she may have not necessarily looked at herself at like I'm aunt so much more so than I may be like a big sister, whatever, or whatever I need to be for the role, kind of.
Nah, I love that. I love that tile you just had with Meadow. That's a great pool because we even see that going to her college choice. Remember, there was a college she wanted to go pretty much all the way on the other side of the country. I think it was Cal.
Yeah.
She was interested in. So yeah, that's a great pool. She does want to kind of live that life and escape that Sopranos world. And also the big thing about this scene is that Janice is once again building up her play.
Mm-hmm.
She's asking Meadow, you know Grandma very well. She's trying to find a way in. How can I get closer with Livia, especially after their first interaction? And we find out that Meadow gives her some information about what type of music she likes and what she might be into. I do love the line when Janice asks Meadow, like, what is she into? I don't know, negativity.
That's her thing. That's what she's into.
I love that line because Meadow said it so matter of fact. Like, what you talking about?
Yeah,
a woman that hates everything.
Yeah, that's her thing. I love to hate. Like, and so, but this was heartwarming to me. I don't know. Every family is different. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree necessarily with it all the way, but this is their family, and we got insight into this moment of aunt and niece, and I thought it was kind of heartwarming. I like stuff like this. Like,
yeah, it was. And Meadow doesn't get that with Carmela.
That is true.
It's cool to see that from Meadow has some kind of avenue to be comfortable, with an adult and her family.
You're right. Because I mean, I like the AJ and Tony changing the tire last season. I like that. So I like those moments, like just taking the time out.
That's what, if this show doesn't have the family aspect, then it's not The Sopranos. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has to have that. That's what separates it, and that's what makes it so important.
Yeah. If it's too much of, I mean, if it's only one or the other, the show is not it's not legendary. Exactly. I don't think we're not having a legendary talk about this show if it doesn't have both sides of that. Like, I imagine
it's not your favorite show. It's not my second favorite. It's not, it's not, this podcast doesn't exist.
Yeah. It'll be a great show that we'll talk about, and maybe some people that are deep fans will talk about, but it's like The Wire, where they switch the dynamics of the effects of different pieces of this one foundation of drugs. That's probably for people that are like you, that are huge fans. It speaks to, without this, it's it wouldn't be these type of things or whatever that kind of golden ticket that flows within that show, or any legendary show that we talk about. So I love this, man. Bobby and Junior, this place almost looks like Green Grove, but this is Junior's new living arrangement. Is that?
Nah, this is the once again we get a vision. The vision is the theme of this episode. This is the ophthalmologist at office. Remember, my man's got the cataracts. You get the black dude with the dark glasses.
Yep.
Everybody's getting their eyes checked.
Talking about getting changing his glasses.
Yep. Which I'm glad he did it, because that's a Junior staple. His glasses.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I love those. That was but we see here that they didn't go way back like some of us tend to think. Like I was speaking about earlier, like Bobby and you can see like their chemistry, like they don't go way back. Like you would think that watching it over and over because of the flow and the timeline of how you kind of remember everything, but when you watch it piece by piece like this, they don't go way back like that. We spoke about it earlier about it being an inheritance. So you kind of get the gist of this is where it's starting to happen. A gentleman comes over, sits down, they're looking around trying to see if anybody's paying attention, and they go ahead and collect. I guess this is his 5% from all of his rackets that Tony spoke about earlier in a doctor's office. Is there some stuff that stands out to you? I definitely got a moment in here that's hilarious, obviously. But
yeah, this is the funniest scene of the episode to me. It was the funniest scene. Like you said, the relationship between Bobby and Junior, you're really just starting to see the start of that. Junior making small talk. You see me on TV. You were on TV? What channel or what show?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't even know what's going on. He's still looking at his magazine. He tells him late night TV. Like I said, Bobby's not a natural ass kisser. Like, if that was Mikey and Junior asked how he looked, he'd say, "You look great, Skip. You look great, Skip. You look great on there."
Oh yeah, he would eat
like,
it.
Like, you look like Bobby's like, you look like you. Like, what you want me to tell you? I don't know. He was on TV. Like, so I love that whole conversation.
Oh.
I love Junior trying to tell the joke.
Oh.
And Bobby's like just kind of looking at him like, you don't get it? I get it. He drives a Lincoln. Like, so? Like,
he still didn't get it though. That's the crazy.
Yeah. Because he's not, it just shows the disregard that Bobby has for Junior. That's hilarious to me. And just the handoff is funny because you're in an office where people can't see, or you don't know if they can see, and you make this subtle handoff, like you leave it right there, you know, because we don't know if that dude in the black glasses can actually see what's going on. That's why they can't pan it back to him. Yeah. So he leaves right there, and Bobby just, in the most unsubtle way, puts his big magazine in his jacket. Like, it was just comedy all the way around.
He wasn't familiar with this at all. Like, you know, and the guy put the magazine there. That's funny. I mean, and even then, it's like it was a black dude with those glasses. So rather he did see it actually. Well, he was looking in that direction, then he looked quickly. I just seen it. That's a consistent thing because of, we see when Mikey drops the gentleman, the drug dealer, off the bridge, there was black dudes, and they say, man, it's so sad, man. Bro, say you want to live no more. Like, that's a consistent thing that, like, black people ain't gonna say nothing.
So ain't nobody in that office gonna say that, man. Them old people got other issues. They there for their eyesight. And like I said, I think that's the subtle part of the comedy. Like, their eyesight is bad to begin with. Like, so even if they were to say something, who gonna believe them? You can't see shit. You got cataracts.
Facts.
You know how many people you see walking around them big black glasses? Like, come on, man, bro. You look like Magoo out here,
bro. You got the crazy lokes on. The Easy E's is crazy right now.
Yeah,
for real. Yeah, I got Cataract.
Yeah, man.
Now they got Lincoln. We can go over to Olivia and Janice at the hospital. Man, I like this moment. I get it's a finesse. I get Janice got ulterior motives, but there's a sweet moment here where she talks about, like, she's listening to the music, and we don't see Livia smile that much, you know. We get this, and Livia's kind of in awe. She wakes up, she's got the flowers, she's playing this beautiful Italian music, this music that she loved. And then she said, my children, you know, so everything is coming back to her. So this is triggered something in Livia's memory that brought her back, and immediately then Janice just laying the icing on. Yeah, you remember when we used to watch this with Ed Sullivan? We used to watch it, me, you, and Dad watch Ed Sullivan. So she's laying the whole, like, beautiful memory out. And I just, sure, it was ingenuous, but it still took effort. Like, we can't take that. Yeah, she's finessing on, like, the emotional pool, but it still was like, I'm still making some effort, you know. I don't know. I liked it, even if it was ulterior.
I feel you, and I respect what you're saying, but Janice knew what she was doing. And I think it's because of the little subtle things that they put in this scene.
Okay.
And if you notice in this scene, we just leave the scene with the ophthalmologist's office. We talking about cataracts. Mm-hmm. The first thing we see in this scene is blurry eyes.
Yeah.
You know, eyes opening. That's a big sign of cataracts.
Mm-hmm.
Olivia opened her eyes, and she's kind of like an avatar for us. Like, we see Janice for the first time, because that's Janice in her mode, and she got it turned up all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she makes Olivia think, like, you know what, I've been the worst daughter ever. Like, I'm here for you. They have the moment where they share hands. Mm-hmm. If you look at Janice's fingers, she got a scorpion's ring on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a lot of people know the theme with scorpions and that theme. So it was just funny to see her pull that. Like, I feel the heartfelt on it. I think there was a little bit of sincerity, at least for Olivia.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
But it just goes to show to what extreme and how good Janice really is.
Yeah.
At finesse and everything. Like, that's what I got from this scene.
But she kissed the hand, though. Look, that was almost like the passing of the torch too. Like, you see how she kissed her hand, like some real godfather, you know, godmother type of moment right here. You know what I mean? It's like
100%. She is trying to get on Livia's good side and make sure that when I reveal this big plan, that you were no questions about it, you in tune with it.
We get a quick scene. Janice is driving, she's rocking out, feeling good. Like, yo, I just made a step. She's building her steps. She's a one-man army right now, making the finesse. So she's happy. But I thought it was interesting that we talk about generational things here that we'll get later. Her music is totally different than what Livia listens to. So I just thought that was just.
You peeped the song that she was listening to?
I can't for the life of me. I don't know.
Called,
I never heard this song before. Remember a Saturday.
The artist is Paul Simon. What's most important is the title of the song. It's called Mother and Child Reunion.
Oh, okay. So
she sings those lyrics in there. So right after that scene, Mother and Child Reunion. And just a little fun fact, she's smoking the weed in the car. If you look at her wristwatch, the time is 4:20.
What kind of watcher are you? Golly, bro.
You know from listening to our pod, that's my bag, man. Just going all the way in.
Wild.
Yeah, her watch is set to 4:20. Both the hands are on the 4. If you watch that while she's smoking up her joint, it's on her right wrist.
I'm looking at it now. That's why I'm like, bro. Yeah. Wow, you different. You different. you are different, bro. You need your Wire podcast. You need like one more of them joints, like right now, because you crazy with it.
Hey man, yeah, I'm obsessed. Man. It's a sickness.
I love it. And it's also funny. She's smoking weed. 420 and the car's green, and then all you see is green, bushes and stuff in the outside. So green around the ear.
Just real quick, that's what makes Sopranos another classic as well. They take those little ancillary scenes that mean nothing and give you so much in them, and they don't care to explain themselves. Either you get it or you don't. And if you get it, it makes the show that much more enjoyable. But everything matters. Like one thing about The Wire, all the pieces matter. Everything about Sopranos matters. Like the little throwaway scenes really ain't throwaway scenes.
That's a fact, and I love and I enjoy it. And they leave it for you to you can gather or you don't have to gather, whatever. Like it's whatever you want it to be. Like that's the way they leave it. Like you say this is what happened at the end, or if you say this what happened at the end, like it don't matter. Like it's that's the beauty of it. But we go over here. Tony meets Bobby after getting that check or whatever from Macaron. Just some hilarious stuff. I've made some memes for this too, but like. Just get off my car before you flip it over. Like, bro.
Ruthless, man.
Even before that, I think you should really consider salad.
It's the funniest thing about this scene is not even the dialogue. It's the look on Tony's face when Bobby is getting out the car, man. And he's just struggling. He just got this big body throwing it around. And Tony just got this look like, you fat motherfucker. Like, I can't believe Tony Soprano has to meet with the likes of you.
Yeah. That sounds, you're right. Because he's so disgusting, eyes squinting, like everything about him. And, just like, hey, consider that some exercise at the end of the meeting,
He threw that one in too.
Bro, like that's why I said foreshadowing Big P talking about y'all abuse that joking shit. Like y'all really like know how to take a man out of it. We'll see later on that those abusing that joking stuff really affects Christopher.
Yeah,
absolutely. We ain't there, but it really affects Christopher a lot. I can speak to my own upbringing. Like when I was more of a sensitive dude, not knowing how to, get back with people. Like that is a real thing. So it's hilarious now. Like looking at it,
man. Even when you do know how to give it back, sometimes you can be the biggest joker in the world. Sometimes you ain't in the mood for that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just ain't in the mood. And Bobby says what he says when Tony drives off. And it's ironic because as you keep watching the show, Tony gets substantially larger.
Yeah.
Where Bobby kind of seems like he wears his weight a little bit better than what we see in season 2. So it's funny.
That is funny. Like, I think it was a good decision to go with that fat suit as well. Like,
Yeah. I think it's time you seriously start considering salads. It's just a hilarious line.
Oh yeah. I want to use that line. I just don't know who and where.
Also, going into I don't know if you had anything else to say about this scene. I also love the fact that the very next shot we get in the scene at the dinner is them putting a salad down on the table.
Yeah. that is so tight, man.
Yeah.
Like you said, I like the vision thing. As soon as you said it, I was wondering, sitting there thinking, like, why is it so blurry with the flowers? And then, like you said, the cataract, and then coming over here to go into the salad. Like, that's simple stuff that you don't even have to. Man, come on. Like, goats, man. But we go to another family dinner. I think this is where the joke was that I thought was funny. It's another family dinner. Janice is running late, but nonetheless, she still makes it. And, Tony's really upset about it. He's old school in this way when it comes to dinner. It's like, if you're going to be late, you need to call and let us know. I didn't know this was like a real thing. Maybe it was in some households. But again, I don't know if we had family. We took it that serious. Like, yo, make sure you call if you're not going to make it or whatever. But I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, man. It was a respect thing. Like you said earlier, dinner was the time for them to connect on their day. This is the one block of time, no matter what, that we get a chance to kind of sit down, talk, figure out what's going on in each other's lives. And knowing that there's a certain time for it and a certain regimen to it, you're disrespecting it.
Yeah.
And I think that's all it was about.
Okay.
Yeah, you said you had a joke. My bad. The joke.
No, just We can go into it. It's like right at the end of the scene, but go ahead. What was you about to say about the scene?
I was just laughing at like it goes into what Janice building her character. I said this is a Janice episode. Her disregarding Tony. Like if that was Chris, when she says the line like "Don't send me to bed hungry, Daddy," like and Meadow starts laughing. If somebody said that at Satrial's or Bada Bing and made it like a wisecrack, Tony would have had him by the chin.
Oh,
you know
man.
what I mean? Like don't disregard me. And Janice can do that, and he kind of he's pissed off, but it is what it is. But the one thing I will just point out about the scene, Meadow gets her license, and she makes a comment about how she had to parallel park behind a van.
Yeah.
Just, if you know anything about the show, Meadow parallel parking.
Yeah. I even think about Mackenzie, season 1 Mackenzie's interest at the time when they got shut down for a moment, and Tony had that conversation with her after Mackenzie committed suicide. She was like, what is it, like therapy? She was like, yeah, I guess you could say that. And then and he was like, instead of a couch, it's in a bed. She was like, I mean, who wouldn't want to sleep with your therapist? Then he kind of switched up like, what you mean by that? It's how fast he switches. So you're absolutely right with Janice, because it's my sister's the only reason. Like, I'm letting you get this off, because he was ready to flip his lid over her. Like, what you mean by that?
Yeah, like, he knew he was guilty. Like, you always look at stuff guilty. Nobody else knows what's going on, but when you know you're guilty of it, you take extra offense. Like, do you know?
He don't like people reminiscing over him. We'll find that out later too. But lastly, the joke was just like, I forgot you don't eat pork in that way.
Right.
And then AJ says, "Oh, I get it." Then he said, "She's a vegetarian." What do you think he was trying to insinuate?
Oh, you know what he was trying to insinuate.
Oh, it's like her promiscuity, her hoish ways. Like,
exactly the same thing he insinuated in the episode I mentioned earlier where Bobby had the line. This is why you talking about. He insinuated the same exact thing.
Why is that his kill point, bro? Why does that got to be the kill point? Like,
yeah, man, like, because it's nothing like you a hoe, and you do it like just call your sister that. That's just his way of just giving her shit.
Right. I don't mean
he dogs Janice. He told Richie, we haven't met Richie yet, but there's better looking men in the can than my sister. Like,
man,
dogging Janice.
Dog, that was crazy. God.
He said there's men better looking than my sister in the can. This shit's wild.
Man, I guess that's where he go, because I mean, she, last episode talk about she still treats me like I'm still some chubby fat kid. So
she does.
This is the middle child trying to defend himself, but then he flows it back. She's vegetarian, which was, I mean, come on, this is a pretty good bar right here where you can get it off, and then really come back like, nah, I'm just talking about this because the kids around. That's crazy. Like that's a level joke. We get Tony and Janice at the pool. Man, this was a beautiful shot scene. I know you're really detailed when it comes to all that, like you just picked up before. So the way the pool is so blue. The only other time we see, as I can recall, the pool looking this great and this blue was Marco Polo. With the Carm and the Tony scene later down the road. But like, it looks something about when they shoot this. I wish they went there a little more often with these shots, because the Soprano household. Oh, well, and then there's the later scene where Artie and Tony's outside, but I don't think we see the pool in that scene. But anyway, I just love how this is shot. And what did you take from like this conversation? It's a beautiful moment, reminiscing over some things for a second, and even her talking about him asking about her Seattle experience and stuff like that. But there's a couple of things that I really liked about it. But before I get there, what was the strongest takeaways for you in this pool conversation between Janice and Tony?
A lot of it was just reiterating what was been building up this whole episode. Janice is continuing to wear Tony down with this Livia conversation. Tony, we see that he's kind of actually talking about it. He's not shutting down the conversation about Livia the same way he does with Uncle Junior, where he tells him immediately, like, I'm done with it, enough. He kind of opens up a little bit because it's more. I still think he can't stand her. Obviously, he hates Olivia at the moment, but he knows nothing's wrong with her either. And that goes to a question you asked me earlier. Like, what do you think he is doing? Like, he says, how are you gonna have some kind of therapy on something that's nothing? How are they gonna have a good advances or whatever it was, but there's nothing wrong with her to begin with? So he knows it's all just a game. The reverence that Tony has when Janice mentions the house and she said, "Daddy bought that house."
Yeah.
He kind of gives that look and he kind of eases up some because
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
that OG, like, you know what, that is my dad's house. I need to stop looking at it like Libby is. And then Tony tells Janice to take her back to Green Grove, knowing that she don't got the money for Green Grove. So it's kind of way of reminding her, like, yeah, I'm little bro, but I control this whole situation.
He got it off.
He gets enjoyment out of that.
And just a little subtle power move afterwards, where he comes and he smokes his cigar, and she pulls out a cigarette. I'm still better than you. Like that to me, the cigar versus cigarette is just like a symbolism for Tony that always, works. Last time we smoked together, it was a cigarette. Now we're smoking together and we're outside again by the pool. I got my cigar. I'm bossing up on you. Like, so but I like this conversation nonetheless, because he's still managing, even though he's not having therapy. He's still kind of managing it, but boy, it looked like he's having a hard time. Like, from a subtle way of watching him, it looks like he's having a really hard time, like, enjoying things. I imagine I don't think we got Gumar action this episode, but I imagine even with the Gumar, he ain't really getting it off like that, where it's like, man, this ain't even fun, this ain't even pleasing. Then with the boys, like, I didn't realize, now that you said it, that we didn't get a lot of the boys in this episode.
Not a lot of them at all. It's just, I think the biggest thing for Tony this episode is all the problems that he has are real stupid. They're real dumb problems, but problems nonetheless. And he's reached a point where his stature, he shouldn't even have to be dealing with this shit. I shouldn't even have to be talking to you about this house. Like, I'm tired of it. We see him hit his breaking point where he's like, you know what? Fuck it. You got it. Yeah. But I think that's just one of those, references of these annoying little small things that I shouldn't have to be dealing with, and I can't find any peace even in my own home. But it also shows their sibling bond. The fact that they can have a conversation like that and seem civil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They grew up under the same household, and I'd only imagine there may be a year apart, no more than 2. So it's like we had, and I almost really, Barb, her experience was different, because she was, when Tony in the flashback, he looks like he was about maybe, let's just say 8 at the youngest. Maybe I got a 7-year-old about to be 8. So I probably say around that age. Like, I'm looking at my daughter, I probably say around that age. So
put him between 8 and 10.
Yeah, and even then, I'm low key, and that's on the low end. He could be, he's riding a bus on his own, so public bus. So I say 10. So then that makes Barb much younger than both of them. So we're looking at maybe a 10 and 12-year difference. So she doesn't have,
There's a huge age gap, and that's why Barb is a minor character when it comes to the Soprano children.
Yeah.
She, like you said, they all were raised in the same house, but they got different versions of Olivia, everything. Like, so it's a different thing.
We go over to the construction site, Tony, Big P, they in the car. This is some simple stuff with Big P. He ain't about to get himself in trouble here. And he probably not gonna get no real information here, but Tony's using him to vent, get his stuff off. He needs somebody to talk to at this moment. They're just kind of watching how the scene's about to happen about this little riot situation that's going on. Tony says to Big P, "Don't worry, you've paid your dues." What did you take from that line? Was that real, or was that Tony kind of still having that? Because we'll see Tony floats in and out of moments with him.
Yeah, I think it was genuine. I think he wants P to know that he looks at him as a contemporary, and not like he's not trying to little man him.
Like an Aaron.
I understood we came up together, even though I have a different title. Like, you put in your work, especially when you look at what it's coming directly off of. We just had a moment where we talked about how when you're guilty of something, everything that somebody says, you look at it a little bit deeper because you're guilty, whether they know it or not. Yeah. Tony said, you can't get anyone good anymore. They're either on drugs, caught up with the law, or young and don't listen to orders. And that's his circle. He's got people, everybody he just described is in his circle. He got the Chippendale, they young and don't listen to orders. They come and mess everything up.
Yeah.
Caught up in the law. Yeah, Jimmy, you got P.
Yeah.
On drugs, we get Chris.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when Pete understands, he says that he understands he's working with the law, so he immediately says, "I hope you don't feel that way about me." Trying to feel out the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of like I don't know exactly what that look was like when I was at your house last time when you gave me that slow stare. You know, so yeah, definitely needing to fill it out. Like, okay, are you picking up on something? Am I picking up on that you're picking up on? Because even when the dude was like, bro, you can get him to skip the police officer. He's like, nah, I'm telling you, man, I've been knowing him since a kid. Like he ain't fully bought in on of thinking everything's all right, you know, which is smart on Big P's end. And Big P, if he wasn't a rat, he would be the ideal mob member. He's just of the right age. He's just smart enough. He's just witty enough, clever enough, just enough, standards as far as respect for this thing of theirs. He would be ideal if he wasn't working with the feds.
Yep, he's the prototype, man. He's a Ben Simmons. He's got all the pieces that to be a superstar, but he's got this mental flaw and these other flaws that hold him back.
Yeah,
but on paper, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But we do have Silvio Dante. I guess we can't overlook Silvio.
Nah, Silvio G, man. Silvio G. Like I rock with Silvio. Like Silvio's perfect for Tony.
Let me ask this before we move. I ain't trying to take all your time here, but while you're here,
nah, we good, man. Listen, I could do this all day, man.
My God, the type of person I like to pod with. Silvio. Is he the soprano? Is he the soprano stringer bell, or who would you say the soprano stringer bell is?
That's a great question. That's a great question because, he's the stringer to a lesser degree.
Okay.
He brings a lot of insight.
Not ambition though, I guess, huh?
You said what?
Probably. I thought about it, but probably no ambition like Stringer.
Nah, no ambition like Stringer at all. I think that's more of a Chris thing. I think you kind of mix those two.
Okay.
In a perfect world, you mix everything good about Chris and everything good about Seal, and you make your own Stringer.
Yeah.
And they all have their own character flaws and their own things that they get in their own way. Seal not so much.
Yeah.
Seal's perfect because he just plays his role. Seal is more of a Chris Partlow. Chris was for Marlowe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really have ambition. Like, I'm going to do everything. I'm loyal to the, like, you don't have to worry about me. Seal would have done whatever.
Okay.
I don't think once you ever, he's one of the few people you will never think about Seal having a flip moment, or he knows exactly what his role is, and he's going to deliver every time.
You're right. I like how you put that. Yeah, put the blend between Christopher and Silvio, and we get that a Stringer. All right. I just like to poke at the wire a little bit. I know you huge fan of it. You know, this is your number one, so I always poke at that. But in this moment, we see the young boys down at the bottom of the mountain of the hill, and Tony is immediately heated. It's like, you're not supposed to see. And these boys are, you know how Spike feels. Like, he just hates stupidity. And like,
same, man. Like, how can you be so stupid?
Right. And it's like, bro, y'all got a job to do. Like, y'all supposed to be with the other dudes that are about to pull up and, do what they're doing to try to, make the play happen. It was crazy, man. But we get them. They come out. I guess the plan was, whip up on the black co-workers and all of this. But boy, I did not like the Reverend getting into it. Like, when we want this. When do we want it? We want it now. And he's getting extra passionate. There, it's just it's a thing I hate. When you just like, when we try to use certain scenarios as a way in the water type of situation, where I get it, like, it's unfair. That is our experience, unfortunately, at times, especially in this moment. But I hate when we turn it into this, like, Selma thing or something. I don't like when we always do that at moments. But I mean, I'm not saying it's not necessary. It's just moments like these where it's like he's getting extra passionate about it. Then to find out, man, you a snake, bro.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's a real winner. That money. But I agree 100%, man. It's first of all, that was a weak ass right hand thrown by dude at Chris.
Oh yeah,
he threw that first punch, man. They kind of edited a little bit because that was first hand. And it was weird that he was even chanting while there was a fight going on anyway. Like, bro, there's some action going on.
Yeah,
and this was only Chris scene in the episode too.
Yeah, And Chris was talking mad greasy. Like he's like,
Yeah,
hey
of
man,
course,
I want to
wouldn't?
see the foreman. You want to see the foreskin. I mean, you want to talk to the foreskin.
Hey,
What?
Chris, that's Chris's MO, man. What
Yeah.
remember with when he was getting the burgers?
Yeah. Oh,
With
a
Adriana,
hit
you
is a
know
hit.
what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Whose welfare check I got to cash to get a burger around here, some shit like that. Like
Talking like I don't know what it is with Chris and black people. Like he just flows differently with them. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know. I maybe because I'm black, I just kind of obsess about Christopher's relationship with black people. I don't know why, but he just feels so comfortable in like, not to say, oh, I'm treating you equally or nothing like that, like because they're gonna be who they are, racist or whatever. But like to me, he just always feels like almost like I don't really care about if you're black.
yeah,
Like
it's
keep
generational. It's
yeah,
generational.
like keep your mother off the street, and I won't keep like banging her. Like
Yeah.
whoa, bro. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Only Christopher scene we see Bobby Bacala, and then they give us the joke of him being tired. You know, so it was a good scene. I mean, I guess they handled it by brute force. That was the technique that they chose to do to kind of get things moving, and I guess that's where the whole money transaction probably played a part in. Tony sending the guys over because he got that, that check when they were back at the what is it? I can't even say the word. Optometrist.
Ophthalmologist. Yeah,
Ophthalmologist.
ophthalmologist. Yeah.
Okay. We get over here to Livia and Janice, and they're in the hospital. And again, she comes and sees her, checking in, staying consistent because she's building her plan and she knows how to do. I don't know how often she's doing this, but she comes and just tells her like, "Hey, yo, like the house, like Tony's agreed, he gonna let us get the house back, so you come back out." But then Olivia's like, "Nah, I want to go back to the other place. Like I want to go back to Green Grove," and that's very funny. It's like, oh, so now it's not that bad. Now you were good with it. You like what you had, so now you want some act right.
So let me ask you this, because I had
Yeah.
a question for you about that. Do you think that was more of Livia actually liking Green Grove more than what she led on in season 1? Or does that say more about I don't want to live with Janice?
I don't think she's picking up the Janice trying to live with. I think she's thinking Janice is trying to get something over with this. But I don't know if Livia's picking up that. And we would love to give her a lot of credit, most of these characters, but I don't think Livia's picking up in this moment. Oh, she's trying to live with me. I don't want to live with her. I think later we'll get that. But at this moment, I think it's just more like, nah,
well,
actually.
told her. She told her. Janice told her in the scene.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait,
guess what? You know what I mean? Guess what? Like, Tony's not selling the house. You're going to go back home and I'm going to live with you.
Oh, right. She said it here. Then the other scene, she said, I'm going to take care of you.
Yeah, okay. yeah. And later on when so that's why I'm wondering, like, is Olivia really like Green Grove, like she's saying, or is it more so like I'd rather go back to Green Grove than live with Janice?
Okay. Well, maybe so. You could, yeah, you could be like, and what I thought was interesting, and maybe you can clue me in. Why didn't she give Tony up to say Tony wouldn't pay for it? She didn't never say Tony wouldn't pay for you going back to Green Grove. She just flat out was like, it's too dangerous there. They just killed the owner. They just found him, he's dead or whatever. Why you think she didn't give Tony up and just say flat out, like, he's not going to look out for you?
I just don't think that was playing into what she ultimately wanted, because she got very this is the first time that we saw a plan of hers kind of going the other way. And she got very flustered at the idea of Olivia not even wanting to go back. And she knew that danger might be more of a precaution to Olivia than Tony not paying for it. She knows the status of the relationship isn't that good.
Okay.
Even bringing that up might even set her off. And the last thing Janice wants to do right now is set off Olivia. She wants to make it seem like I'm your perfect child. Gotcha. So let's not even bring Tony up into it. And if I can tell you, like, it's not even safe over there, and told her the truth, then maybe that would be a better idea to bring her home.
Okay. I like good. I think I agree with that. You're right. It could set her off. Okay. And then, we get Livia kind of chokes on a cookie, whatever, but she still doesn't want help or whatever. I don't, just a simple, subtle, like, just being old, like not being able to digest your stuff like that. You need to be taken care of. You can't
Reading
even do something. Yeah, like you can't do nothing as small as chew your cookies on your own. We go over to Janice. What?
You still in this scene?
I'm going over to the household unless
I
I
was
was
gonna say the
something else.
biggest thing about this scene is a nurse bringing up DNR to Janice.
Outside okay, yeah. Okay, because that goes right.
Yep, and it goes right into it, but that's when you start seeing Janice's wheels start spinning for real.
Yeah. When I first seen this scene to this time around, I almost thought like, and I ain't gonna read too far into it, but I almost thought like, did Janice have a delayed reaction? Like almost like I kind of want to see if she go choke real quick, but I was like, she did kind of react on time. Like it wasn't, but I think just because how things are, you almost looking for that type of situation. But I kind of was looking like, is she kind of delayed on the, like, I'm gonna let you know how they do on TV movies, they be kind of let them kind of see they're gonna die.
Janice is smart.
Well, her paperwork ain't filled out yet, so she need to get the wheel like she was talking about. So I guess it wouldn't have benefited. So, but I almost was like, it is a delayed or whatever. But yeah, so the nurse brings up the DNR, and that's how we leave that scene. And then going into the next scene, Janice talks to Tony about DNR, which is the name of the episode, Do Not Resuscitate. Something that I just kind of took a little nerdy stuff. I thought it was funny how Tony was on the input screen on his TV and how difficult that used to seem in the 90s. Like when we were on the input screen, the blue screen, bro, with the white text, like I don't know what I'm doing. It used to just like, how do I put, like, I remember we used to have to have people like, can you hook my 64, bro? Can you, I don't know how to, it was so simple. Now we can break our, Fire Sticks and Roku and smart TV. Like, bro, input is a norm. Like, now you just got to go to input too. Like, it's crazy to me, like how hard that was and like the advancement of our information and knowledge these days, bro.
Yeah, that's a good call. I love that about this show and older shows in general. Just that was, unless you lived it, you don't understand.
That's a fact, bro. Because he was like frustrated for real. Like auxiliary B, what are they talking about? Like,
like where there is no auxiliary B. Yeah, I get it,
dog. But also Meadow asks, where the keys so she can, take AJ to see grandma, but she calls him Anthony. What was that? Like,
I think she was being facetious. She was trying to be an ass because she said mother. I've never heard Meadow say mother other than the scene.
Yeah,
because when she asked, it's because Carmela kind of gave her a smart response, like you got a license to drive, not to just go around on the school night. Mother, I was gonna take Anthony. Like she was just being a 16-year-old.
Okay.
Like if you want to drive us, then fine.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I agree with you. The kind of being funny. I like that. But so Janice finally, he said, I don't care if she's gonna be a vegetable. She's not gonna care anyway. Livia, he's like, bro, I'm super over this. Like, so she's her plan is working so far. So she's got it off. He's like, do whatever. Y'all deserve each other. You can have a house. Please leave me alone.
Brick by brick, man. Like I said, Tony's too important to be dealing with stuff like this. He doesn't care, and he's trying to figure out this input thing, like you said. So he does say one of the most interesting things, which is 100% spot on. Go ahead, take the house, live with each other. You deserve each other. It'll be worth it just to watch. Indeed, Tony, it is. It is worth it just to watch.
Yeah, like because so that speaks volumes because he was gonna sell the house for 180 grand. So it's like, all right, it's worth 180 grand.
Get out of my face, man. Get out of here. Take her, please. Because now I killed two birds with one stone. I ain't got to worry about you being in my house and in my space.
Man.
And now I have to worry about you bringing her up again. Like, you take care of her. That's on you.
That's a great play. It really is, because that's working out. You ain't got to worry about your mother.
There's another situation that happens in this season where Tony looks at a character and says, you know what? It's your problem now.
Yeah. Yeah. And boy, I mean, he had to cave in because she was gonna keep going, and it was just like whatever. But we pan over to a big, huge setup here. Meadow drops AJ off with Livia. I love their sibling deal that they made here. I thought that was kind of funny. He's like, oh, then are you gonna tell me? Oh, okay, I was gonna let you go drive because he well underage. He's probably maybe 14, I imagine 13, 14.
Yeah, about 13, I'd say.
13, yeah, 3 years. Okay, so it's like, nah, bro, we ain't doing that. Like, you ain't about to. Yeah, because he'd be like middle school because she's a junior here, so maybe he's 8th grade. I'm imagining.
Yeah, I don't think they ever shared like time together. I don't think they were ever in high school together.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
so 7th grade maybe.
7th. Okay, so that's probably a little even younger than that. Then yeah, so maybe 12. But just like, oh, okay, well, you gonna tell me because I guess she's going to see a boyfriend or something like that.
No, she's going to see Hunter. Hunter, her friend.
Oh, her friend, the girl.
She had
an
eating disorder.
Gotcha.
I know Spike probably hate that because he was hating what happened in season 1 with the old girl in the soccer team, these disorders and stuff like that. But her friend Hunter had an eating disorder, so she was in one of the hospital rooms upstairs.
Oh, I didn't pick that up.
Yeah, that's what she said on the elevator. She said Hunter's in here for, I think she said again, like she's in here again for an eating disorder. So I'm gonna go see her.
See, I did not catch that. Which is interesting because Meadow doesn't really have an issue with Livia.
Nah, she doesn't. But
I don't know if she ever did.
Nah, she wanted to get out specifically on the school night. Her coming to Carmelo was a straight up, I know exactly what I was going. I didn't have any plans to come to see Livia. AJ was just my excuse, which is what older siblings do a lot. Use a younger sibling as an excuse. Like,
I get it off. Yeah,
exactly.
I just want to whip. Like, I just want to drive.
Exactly. Especially when you first get your license.
Boy, like especially when it's fresh. Now this right here. This is where now I want to ask the question. Is Livia losing her mind here, right? So this is why I want to see where you're at with it. I'll tell you where I'm at with it. So she says Janice comes over every day. Daughters take better care than sons. Then turns around and says, after Meadow is gone, they'll leave you here for days. Like, what this old lady is out of it, bro. Oh man, it's like Johnny's a saint. Then it's like, you don't know what he put me through. It's so funny, bro. God, so please maybe you can provide insight. You're very detail oriented, and I appreciate that in your craft. Where do you stand on it? Because I think you're supposed to literally gauge it like how her memory is. I gauge it from she's in tune and she's out of tune. But Spike gauges like, no, she's full of it all the way through from the moment she ended up at the Sopranos house, that time when she was looking for her sister or whatever that wasn't alive anymore.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on this, bro?
This is one of the most fascinating things about Sopranos.
Yeah.
Because it really, you go back and forth numerous times about it. Season 1 did such a fabulous job of making you think that she was losing it a little bit. And I think if you don't have that build up, you're not even questioning it. I think Livia's full of it. I think the way that our brains work in general, and I've discussed this on one of our podcast episodes, just how the memory works. When you remember something, you're not remembering what happened. You're remembering your last time remembering it. You get what I'm saying? Wow. So the brain itself, when you have all these thoughts, years and years and years of these thoughts and different memories that you can draw back on, I think that a lot of them can get mixed up. But Livia just shows too many signs of being sharp and on it. Like she's seeing through Janice and her plan. Like in trailing this scene when they have their scene together, she tells her, I know what you're trying to do. She mentions I got money somewhere. She says that because she knows the end game. Like, maybe if I say this, I can save myself. So I think that two things can be true. Okay. I think when it comes to the mundane day to day, I think we all lose it a little bit and you can get things mixed up. But I think in the grand picture and knowing what's going on, she's not helpless out here. She knows what's up. And I think a little bit of it can even be a little, playing the game. She can say certain things around the children. Even in worst case scenario, they can back her on like, oh no, grandma was in this shape or in that shape. Yeah. But I think Livia's full of it. I think she's smart. I think that she has the same memory loss anybody in that age would have, but I don't think it's to the degree where she's
trying to reach at it, where she's taking it to. Like
Tony's 100% right, man. There's nothing wrong with her. She knows what she's doing.
Was she smiling at the finale? Yes or no? On the first season?
Yeah, she was smiling. She had a smirk on her face.
Okay.
She gets joy out of that. That's what she lives for. That's what's keeping her alive.
Because that's her thing, negativity. That's
Tony told the Reverend, man, she's too miserable to die.
Yeah, that's her thing. Like, feeling bad makes her feel good, probably. Like, I wish the Lord would take me is something that she says all the time. That's probably a great thing to her, like saying, like, she
opened up the window and pushed me out. Like she said that this episode.
Yeah.
Like
she said Johnny was a saint. She cries after. So are you crying because it's hard to say something good? Like, that was a reach, but like,
Olivia, man, she's a trip, man. She is a trip, and she's so good at it, and that's what makes it. She's so. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen another character in any other show. She's so good at it, and even I can say, even me saying what I'm saying, only like 75 to 80% of certainty. You know what I mean? A show this smart, you kind of leaves you on the fence, and I love that they don't explain it.
Because you can almost, if you rewatch it like we're doing, you can almost watch it and say, okay, I'm gonna watch Livia with the concept of she knows what's going on. Then you say, I'm gonna watch it again when you watch it the whole series or a season. I'm gonna watch it with her actually losing her memory and try to look at it from that point and see where the crumbs are for that. So they
both make sense.
Man, it's literally Lloyd 5'2" or fine 2. This is, to me, like, it's right there. Is she's 5'2" or is it she's fine 2? You don't know. Right. Still, he says it's both. So it's like, this is that for me.
Yeah, man. And like you said, she told Janice. I saw that scene with Richard. I can't remember his last name, the actor. When she makes that notion, like she told Janice, I know what you're doing. I saw that movie with Richard. That's a reference to Kiss of Death, a movie where a serial killer pushed the woman down in the stairwell in her wheelchair. That's why you had that flash forward where Janice is like having that vision of her falling down the steps. That's a reference to that movie that Olivia mentions. Like, I've seen that movie before. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get me up out of here with this "do not resuscitate."
Well, then let me go ahead and pan over there. Let me just say this and pan over there because I like where you're taking it. I like Sopranos do a great job of mixing two things at one time. AJ's talking about DNA. He mentions DNR, but he's still not staying with her on when she's talking about DNR. And so that they do such a great job of people being on two different pages. I just love when they do this because this is really how real life works. I don't know I write things and I have no idea how you write this.
Right.
It's like two images on top of each other, and you turn the opacity down so you can see pieces and parts of different parts of the image, but you never quite get the full picture. It's crazy, bro.
Yeah, genius writing, man. It's next level. That's why this show is what it is.
Yeah.
And then also another AJ spilling the beans moment.
Oh yeah, he did that season 1, didn't he?
Yeah, about the whole therapy, about Tony being in therapy. Yeah.
Don't he know that's a racket for the Jews? We get Janice. The morning comes. Livia is being visited by Janice. So Janice, now we find out that she comes every day. So she is like, boy, she is restless. So she ain't got nothing else to do. Let's be clear about that too, though. She ain't got nothing else to do.
Yep.
But she comes and visit her. She's hugging her on the shoulders, and she got the smile, and she's feeling good. She just built momentum until AJ has created that crumble there. And Livia shares this story about Janice finesse when she was young. She said that she sold her ballet shoes for amphetamines. What was Janice on, bro? Like, who is this? Like,
Janice wild, man. She's just a wild child.
Roadies,
that's all.
Man.
She wanted to get into the mix, man. She was with the shits.
She really was.
It says a lot about Livia calling her out in front of a strange company, telling a story like that too.
Oh yeah.
And I want to correct myself. You were right from earlier. This is the scene where Janice tells her that the house not being sold, I'm gonna live with you. So you are right. It wasn't
okay. So it was a different context of
this scene when she actually says it.
Okay, good call. So yeah, so you got to think, dude. Livia, after AJ leaves, the visitation's over. You're at the hospital. You're so mad when I see, because even when she comes in, she has that classic Livia constipation look. And what am I going to say to piss you off? Because I am so mad that the fact that you would consider DNR.
Yeah, you're trying to get me up out of here.
And then she goes and tells, like, when she was young, she sold her ballet shoes And again, this ties into that later episode you spoke about with Bobby, and even actually you can tie it into the first season where Jackie Aprile says, "You Sopranos take it too far." And then Bobby says that later down the road too. So here it is. It's like, you saying this in front of the company, like you don't spill the big, you don't talk about that stuff. These people ain't family. I think about the Godfather line. Don't go against the family ever.
Yeah,
like,
man.
dude, like,
yeah, man. Never talk about never discuss anything outside the family again.
Yeah,
like that. Never tell anybody what you're thinking outside the family again. I think it's a quote, but
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. It's a dynamic that is very, very interesting, and even at this age, and she knows, and like I said, Olivia knows that I'm going to put her business out there, but I'm also going to protect myself by saying I got some money somewhere. So if I go somewhere, you're never going to find out where this money is.
So that's what this play is?
Yeah, that piques Janet's interest. Yeah, because she knows once the DNR conversation gets brought up, and this is why I say Olivia is not full of it. Excuse me, she is full of it. She knows exactly what's going on. AJ brings up DNR. She knows exactly what that is. AJ also mentioned that Dad and Janice was talking about it. So she knows, oh, damn, my kids are plotting against me.
Yeah.
Of course, I just plotted to kill my own kid.
So he got all the reason in the world.
I got all the reason to think. So that's where the whole money thing comes in. Like, that is my way to stay alive. That's what her calling Carmela the house for. Like, that she is trying to set up a play for her to, if anything happens, I know it's Janice. Like, you know what I mean? Making another Godfather reference. I know it was you, Fredo. Yeah. So Janice, she knows what motivates Janice. So if I say there's some money somewhere, Janice is gonna hold off on any plan to get rid of me and find out where that money is first.
Wow, I never picked that up, bro.
From a DNR.
That is great info. Now that you're saying it makes 100% sense. Because the play right now for Janice, because see, Janice is a small time hustler.
Yeah.
Tony's a big time hustler. Her hustle was just, I'm going to get mom there. And, maybe she was going to push her down the stairs. Maybe I was going to let her kind of cough a little too long. I was going to let her to, I just want the house. And I'm going to take mama's car too. And that's all. That's my finesse. But when money comes to play, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
I start doing the math. I look at where Tony lives. Now, Tony and Carmela living all right. I know Tony had her in Green Grove. That's expensive. Tony definitely has been giving Ma some money over the years. And if not just Ma, then maybe my dad, Johnny. There's got to be some money somewhere. I'm going to go for the bigger play now. So now I got to tolerate and not maybe accidentally I've fallen and can't get up, type of situation. With my, so that's a great info, bro. Good.
Absolutely,
good
man. Like I said at the beginning, Janice came to town to collect. Whatever she can get her hands on, she is going to collect.
Yes. We pan over to Junior in the shower, and they give us this simply for a later setup, but he falls and hurts himself, and you get your sister's cunt line that people love. It's just like, why is that I don't know.
Sopranos take it too far, man. That's why.
The Sopranos take it too far. Can we get the merch made for that ASAP? You know what I mean? But yeah, that's just that quick setup scene. That we get Tony and the Reverend, and we get some very sad news, man. His father passed away.
Yeah.
I don't know, bro. This was a rough one for me. On a low key, it's off air. It's not even a central character, but it was a rough one for me, where it was like, dang, you just seen him a couple of days ago. Oh man, look how he was doing good. He was drinking soda,
yeah,
just sharing a story. Seemed like he was hopeful, and unfortunately, this happens. And I guess I was about to say I don't know why they wrote it this way, but I do understand to kind of talk about the end of an era. That's kind of the setup, I'd imagine. What did you gather from this whole scene, and then how did your lid flip when you first watched this and to find out that the Reverend was in on it on the racket?
Yeah, man. So my first gather was it's the perfect setup of explaining why Tony and Junior still have a relationship. A lot of the work that they did in this episode kind of goes into that. You have, it's not coincidence that you have a scene where Junior slips and falls in the shower. Just a sign, one of those first signs of, your You're getting old. Are you able to take care of yourself? You still able to live by yourself? Those type of things. Mixed in with this guy that was perfectly healthy, I was just talking to, passed away. Reverend having this conversation of, you know, we're going to be the old people. Like this generation is dying off. And Tony's like fighting it. Like, what are you talking about? We're still kids. Like, don't buy into that. The Reverend told him, don't buy into that. Like, as soon as that last person is done, we are the elder statesmen at these functions. Like, we are the patriarchs of these families. And we talked about how Tony loves his OGs and he wants that kind of relationship. He realized I'm about to be an OG without ever really having one. And this guy that I was just talking to is now going. Ain't that much time for Junior. So regardless of the bullshit between me and him, I see that he's not in a good shape. You know, when we see him at the last scene, he's on the couch, can't move. We think he broke his hip. I got to take care of my uncle. Because at the end of the day, regardless of everything, like I said, I know this is business, is everything he put into it. And once he's going, all the information with him's going too. So they tied all of that beautifully together to make sense of, because otherwise, if you ask us, you know, the average Joe, somebody tries to kill us, somebody tries to do anything less than that, for the most part, we done with that person, let alone hit out on us.
Yeah.
So it just makes more sense of why is he still keeping and why they still have this relationship. And it's a real thing too. That you know, we got to think this came out in 2000, and people really look at that generation. I think they call it the golden generation or the great generation.
Yeah.
Of that age range of people. And it's just how life goes anyway. Once that elder statesman goes, you know, everybody always says in the Black community, you know, once grandma dies, things ain't the same.
Yeah.
You know, you are now in charge of making sure. And sometimes you're not taught how to be charged. There's a gap because you're not getting as much information as you need.
Yeah.
I think Tony realized, like, man, there's still a lot of stuff I can get from this old man. Like, let's see if we can kind of put our differences to the side and get things together, man. And I think that's the biggest play with it.
And his pop already gone, you know.
Yeah, his pop already gone. Those are real,
gone.
Yeah, those are real things, man. Especially when you care about family the way Tony does.
Yeah,
like, it's not his family dynamic isn't because of his. That's not what he wants. If it was up to him, it would be a completely different way. Like Junior would be the perfect OG. He'd be like a Don Corleone.
Yeah, exactly.
But as far as the Reverend being in on it, it just goes to show that money runs all. You know? You had two groups of people who notoriously, with this show or without this show, if you know anything about history, groups of people just don't get along. And I love when y'all reference in season 1 the scene in True Romance between Sicilians being Black or coming from Black people.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's all a good tie-in into it, but we can find a way to come up with this plan to make money. Like, it don't matter what color you are, or what you represent, or what you about. Like, we about to make some bread together. We about to come up on a play together. Yeah. They set up a future play that we see later on. You know what I mean? With the asbestos removal. Yeah. So that's all I took, man. And just selling out his own people. He knew he was in the wrong. Like, my people, I think he had a quote something about they be up in smoke if they knew that their blood was involved in this.
Yeah.
It's really some slime ball shit, man. You know what I mean? It's one thing to make a play where people are hurt, but it's not a direct hit. Like, you put people in danger's way. He said one of his dudes almost lost an eye.
Bro, it's crazy. And you were like prepping them on, like, it's nuts.
Yeah. And you
be your own people.
You be your own people, man. And that's what all the show's about. This is you mentioned Chris and his relationship with Black people. It's a generational thing, man. A lot of the things we see in this episode are generational.
Yeah.
There's nothing that his dad, excuse me, his dad would have never approved of that.
Yeah.
We know that. But this generation, our morals and those standards that they lived on, I don't care about that. We about to get this money.
Like you said, you know, these guys these days want to be buried in their tracksuit. Like, you know, they don't even wear regular suits now. You know,
exactly.
You see, you know,
no matter the generation, it's always the same story.
Same story. For sake of time, I'm gonna move us through these last two scenes pretty smoothly. Livia calls the Soprano house, and you can kind of chime in after I go through both of these, but Livia calls the Soprano house, Carmela picks up, and it looks like she's losing it again, but maybe she's not. She's clear. She says Janice is a real snake in the grass, and Carmela says, nah, she just lacks work ethic, which is funny coming from her. I thought that was a funny line coming from Carmela. Stick a pin in there. And then the last scene, Tony sees Uncle Junior and realizes he's hurt. Uncle Junior still trying to save face. All right, I know I probably got to go to the hospital, but don't call no ambulance though.
Yeah.
Like keep it down. You know what I mean? Roll me out there. And he picks him all the way up and he takes him to the car. And that is where we leave it. What did you gather in these last two scenes? The phone call and the Uncle Junior ride to the hospital.
Olivia, once again, she's just trying to protect herself because she was going to end that call with, if anything happens to me, I'm presuming she was going to say Janice did it, whatever the case is. She's just, you know what I mean? I think that was the whole purpose. She's trying to make it seem like she's the victim. Because remember in that scene, she says on the phone, like, he's mad at me and I have no idea why. She's playing that role again. Like, I don't even know why he's upset with me. Like, come on, man.
Y'all might be convincing me on like she really keeping it together because I'm like back and forth.
Absolutely. That's why she even mentioned it. She knew what you think about it. This is in the area of house phones. Yes. You don't have cell phones where we push a button. You got to know this number. Olivia knows this house phone. She knows who she's calling. And you know, she tries to make it seem like she's not in tune when she mentions Johnny. Yeah. And Carmela says, no, Anthony. But no, she knows what's going on. That's why she makes herself seem like the victim. I don't even know why he's mad at me. Janice is doing this. Like, if anything happens to me, like, she's setting everything up. So that was my thought on that one. The last one is as far as Tony seeing Junior, for one, just how this life is full circle. You just kind of take care of that generation. And it also reminded me of Junior being old school. There's certain morals and grounds that they have. He didn't want to call an ambulance. He didn't want to go out like that. He's stronger than that. It reminded me a lot in season 1 when Big P ran from the pool hall.
Yeah.
We don't do that. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know, it's embarrassing for me to be wheeled out of here. This whole neighborhood gonna see an ambulance truck pulling up in my crib. Like, we ain't gonna do it like that. Take me, you know, it's just this bravado type of thing. So
it is, yeah.
That's what I gathered from it. And like I said, the main thing with the music in the background, Tony's still there for Junior. And he realizes, like, I'm gonna do him carrying him. Literally, I'm carrying
the boss of the family. Remember, essentially, okay, well, that has been our episode, man. This is going to be one for the books, for real.
Yeah, man, we went a little bit long, but I love every second of it,
bro. Let me tell you, I have enjoyed this so much, and I've been listening to podcasts of Sopranos for so long, and I've always wanted to have such a deep conversation about it amongst like other Black people that are into it, and it's just a rarity kind of. And so this has truly been a pleasure, as well as doing it with Spike U, bro. And you already know that anytime we in the jam, bro, you're the first person I'm calling. You know what I mean? Like, hey, yo, bro, if you got the time, dog, he's not available because he's a busy dude. Like he does a lot of potting as well. So if you available, you are going to hands down be the essential person I'm calling for this, because you came in here like we made a middle of the season trade and like you fit right into the system. You know what I mean? So
yeah, man, I appreciate that, man. I know we got like categories to run through real quick, but before just a couple of things. It's an honor on my end. I know I said it at the top, but honestly, man, what you and Spike do, not only with this, but another week in the books, like that's becoming one of my favorite podcasts. I love the conversation that y'all take place. But I mentioned earlier, I'm a big Spike fan. I love to have him on the pod and have a conversation with him about Bronx Tale. I know he mentioned that him being one of his favorite movies when he talked about one of the Chippendale dudes. He played Colangelo in Bronx Tale. And it's funny because young Tony in Sopranos played young Colangelo in Bronx Tale.
Yeah, I thought, okay.
It's a full circle thing. But I'm a big fan of Spike, big fan of you. We talk, often about just our episodes and go back and forth with insights on certain things. Yeah. And one of the biggest compliments I can give y'all is, as somebody who was a part of a movie and film review podcast, I don't want to touch Sopranos right now because y'all are killing it. You get what I'm saying? A lot of times you see people doing certain things and you're like, oh, I can do that, man. I can do that better.
For sure.
I'm such a fan of you guys.
Yeah.
Like it is a joy. Like when y'all episodes were like, when you switched up from like Thursday to Monday, I was looking at Thursday like, yo, where's the episode? That little hiatus between season 1 and season 2. Yeah. It's funny, man, because I was talking to my friend Jordan. She's a big listener of the podcast. She's a fan of what you guys are doing as well.
Shouts out to her, man.
And I think we were having a conversation. I was like, man, my only gripe is we only get one episode a week. And now my whole mentality is flipped. Like, yo, I get to keep these guys in my life for the next, few months.
Yeah.
I'll look at it from that perspective, man. It's really cool what y'all are doing. And I told you off camera before that just that Black perspective. I've never had an opportunity to have a conversation about The Sopranos with somebody else who loves it like me that is Black.
Yeah.
And like I said, that Italian-Black relationship is always kind of tricky and funny.
Yeah.
So I'm just a big fan of what y'all doing, man. And I'm honored to always fill in for Spike. Those are big shoes to fill, but
yeah, for sure.
He's busy, whatever the case is, man. You know you can always hit me up, and I'm always down. So we can get into your categories to end the episode, man. We can wrap this one up.
Well, thank you again, bro. Well, I'll say that at the end. We'll get to the categories, and I want to speak to that too. But our episode rank, y'all know on here we rank it by 3 tiers. We got is it a made episode being untouchable? Is it a good earner being pretty good? Or is it just another envelope? It was a cool episode. We don't believe in bad episodes. There might be some debate later. There's some episodes that come to mind, but we'll deal with that later. So with that being said, Rich, what do you rank this episode for your personal rank?
As much happened, as much setup as there was, it was just another envelope.
Oh, just another envelope. Okay.
Yeah. It got real close to being a made episode just because, or a good earner, excuse me, just because we get the full Janice setup. But a lot of this was really just setting up the chessboard. I think once you get into, because season 2 is one of my favorites. I think once you get into 3 and on, then you start. There's going to be a lot of made episodes in my opinion this season.
Yeah, they're gonna go
I think
on a run.
this is just a perfect setup for it, and I just called it just another envelope. But it was a very entertaining episode. Nice change of pace, very funny. Like I said, it was a Janice dominated episode. We didn't get much of the crew. I think you got to have a lot of the crew in there, to be something significant. But it was very good, man. They like you said, there's just another envelope is better than 90% of television. You know what I'm saying? The bad episodes of The Sopranos shows wish they could have those.
Yeah, you're right though. You're right. Like people be ready to jump the ship for that. You convinced me. I think I'm with you. Just another envelope, just for the simple fact that we did not get the crew really like that. And we didn't really get. I didn't feel like we got a lot of the family either. Like
substantial happened. It was a setup episode.
Yeah, so we got mostly Janice, but I feel like we didn't get all of the Soprano household a lot like that. So we ain't focused there. We ain't focused really on the family, the mob either. So it's like we kind of jumped back and forth, but we didn't get a lot of anything to me. But it was a good episode nonetheless. But I say it's just another envelope.
Yeah, when you don't have the crew and when you don't have Melfi, it's hard to be.
Melfi, man, boy, it's hard. I didn't realize.
And that's why that's another reason why this episode is impressive, because two major elements that make this show, and it's still here we are almost 2.5 hours in talking about it.
That's crazy. Yeah. The Good Earner Award. Who's the MVP of this episode, man? I think we might have the same one, but I'd be interested to see if you have somebody else.
It's Janice.
Okay.
Comes from nowhere, 20 years cross country, and just immediately gets her seat, next to the throne. Like she came right back into town, had an idea. Like I said, before she got on the plane, she knew what she wanted to do, and here she is making it work already. Like Janice is cold.
She's cold. Yeah, I agree. It's just no way to really twist that thing around. As far as she came back and she made the boss play, and she's about to have a house and a car because her mom can't do much without her anyway. So, who gets the Broken Balls Award? Who took the biggest L this episode?
I went back and forth about this, but I think the only answer I can really justify is Freddie Capuano, the owner of Green Grove.
Yeah.
He got capped for running his mouth, loose lips. But nobody major took an L, in my opinion. It might be setting up an L for the future, but this episode in particular, I think he's the only one that took it.
Okay.
You could say the union workers. The black.
I may. Who the unknown guy who almost lost his eye? Like Yeah,
he took the biggest L, especially since it was all for naught.
Dang, it's so hard to. I almost want to say Tony, and then I'm like the Reverend because it's like he lost his father.
You can argue Junior.
Junior,
he got a broken hip. He lost all his money, or pretty much his income. Like he took a big L too.
He did. I'm gonna go to union workers. I think yeah, that just to know that you're doing all this for nothing and you got finessed into the politics like how real world stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So lastly, what was your favorite moment of the episode?
The ophthalmologist's office. That was my favorite moment. Like that was just kind of, like Bobby, their interaction, because we, like you said, when you've seen this show so many times, you know the timeline kind of gets blended. When you realize this is Bobby's first episode and you know what's coming between Junior and Bobby and all the interactions they have, I just really loved it. I love the subtle humor. I loved everything they try to put into it. I think my second would probably be Janice and Tony at the pool.
Yeah.
And I was a big fan of the lawyer scene as well. But I think the office with Tony and them getting that money, that was comedy to me.
Yeah. I probably will go with the Janice and Livia, the last like interaction they had at the hospital.
Okay.
I like they do some kind of creepy there, and I really like that for some reason. It's like this weird like flashing, and she's looking at the stairs thing, and they took the time to create a cutout of Janice, of Livia's face to put on that picture. Like that's just a little detail. You actually had to have a picture, have a screaming picture, and put it there, and then they flashed it, and they like, you sure you don't know what money I'm talking about? Like her tone, and then flipping it back to Janice. Come on, I'm gonna take care of you, and I'm gonna take care of you. And she has this look. It's so creepy, bro. Like even to the point I had to make a video kind of putting the creeps on it a little bit because I like, yo, this was kind of out there. So that's definitely the moment for me. As we close here, bro, again, I appreciate you as well. I'm a big fan of y'all, the Culture Garden, as well as we got y'all. Y'all doing your thing. I love y'all chemistry. Shouts out to Ray P. The dedication on the road. That was crazy.
Yeah, man. Ray P. School. Yeah, man. Shout out to both of them. Couldn't do any of this without them, man. Shout out to them.
So, man, shouts out to y'all. Shouts out to all of those that are listening. Y'all tune in. I appreciate this, brother. I appreciate all y'all that are tuning in. And remember, don't forget about it.